The work I'm bringing to you today is Mission Supremacy. It's a story where the protagonist is a failure who suffers bullying from these boys here. They're watching a story on their phones where the main character also faces bullying. What a coincidence. It almost seems like we're talking about the same story. However, the boys say the story is boring because the bullied boy suddenly gains powers. Little do they know history is about to repeat itself. So they take out their frustration over the webtoon being bad on our protagonist, of course. Then they leave the boy lying on the ground. At that moment, Johnson feels like a complete failure. He starts to think that life could be like a webtoon. They could get a mission system window and become powerful. But soon the protagonist is going to realize that his life actually is a webtoon. That made me think, could our lives be a webtoon too? Then, unexpectedly, Johnson says, mission window. He begins to shout repeatedly, mission window, mission window. But it seems like something like that is impossible to happen. Or is it? Then, surprisingly, a mission window opens for the boy. Before I go to sleep tonight, I'll be shouting mission window too. If the neighbors don't call the police, that's a win. Back in the classroom, the protagonist is staring at the status window. I would have already clicked on the mission window when he was sitting on the street earlier. Our protagonist is wasting time at this moment, and when he finally decides to press yes, his finger slips through the mission window and lands on the belly of this girl. And what a beautiful girl. Afterward, our protagonist is incredibly embarrassed by the incident. Then the girl immediately tells him that this is harassment. Kim tries to explain himself but gets slapped across the face. Unexpectedly, the girl then tells him to go buy her some food. Wait a moment, because what I'm thinking, the girl will start blackmailing him right then. And that's exactly it. At this point, the girl starts mentioning her 20,000 followers. I think we can already bury the protagonist. When he asks her for money to buy her food, the girl insults him and says he should pay and consider them even. For him touching her, to be honest, I think he got off easy. This could have caused a lot of trouble for Johnson, touching the girl's belly. We all know where this mess could end up, so the protagonist quickly goes off, sadly, to buy her food. On his way, he gets punched by the chubby guy. Our protagonist can't catch a break, even when he's already buried in problems. Then the chubby guy pretends to be concerned about him. It's almost pitiful for Johnson. He even gathers a bit of courage to say that someday he'll beat them up. But all it takes is for the chubby guy to make this face like he's about to beat the protagonist, and he apologizes right away. As Goku would say, he's a loser. And the most incredible thing of all is that he's like a lion when arguing with his mom. His mom is a very calm person. The boy even says he'll drop out of school and become a YouTuber. Then even his sister starts mocking him for wanting to be a YouTuber. So Johnson gets upset and slams his bedroom door. But in a way, we can understand a bit of the boy's pain. Bullying is really complicated and shouldn't exist. While lying down, he remembers the mission window. Naturally, our protagonist accepts without a second thought. And the system says he'll receive a card if he completes the mission. A card. Where are the powers? I want power, not a card. After the system creates a tutorial mission for him, we see the current mission. Surprisingly, the first mission is for him to apologize to his mom, and once he completes it, he'll receive a gold card. Johnson quickly jumps out of bed, thinking he'll be able to sell the gold card. Apparently, the card order he can obtain is bronze, silver, and gold. So the boy will certainly get a gold one just for apologizing to his mom. Our protagonist goes to his mom and apologizes for everything he did before, including for shouting at her. But he does it while yelling. Surprised, his mom is speechless since it was very unexpected. Knowing her brother, his sister says he's probably gone crazy because he never apologizes to his mom. However, the boy completed the mission, and he earned the gold card for completing it. So when Johnson speaks, revealing the card, the grand, magnificent gold card appears. On the card, it says, consumable card, grow 3 centimeters. Literally, the boy will grow 3 centimeters in height when he uses that card. In other words, the card grants the powers I mentioned earlier, and after he uses this card, it will disappear. Imagine if it were a card to grow 3 centimeters of something else. That would be the diamond card, the dream of men. Our protagonist accepts the card and runs to the kitchen, calling for his mother. The boy excitedly tells her that he grew 3 centimeters. Yesterday, he was 1.68 meters, and today he's 1.71 meters. However, there's a catch. This card was a tutorial. The next ones will probably be much harder to complete, and the system even shows how many cards he has at the moment, which is 0, because he just consumed the only one he had. Then, unexpectedly, his mother also apologizes to him, and she tells him to sit down to eat. Afterward, the boy finds it strange because his relationship at home wasn't very good. Not to mention everything was upside down. At school, he would apologize, and at home, he was arrogant with his mother. It seems that thanks to the system, things are going to change. The next day back at school, Johnson appears very happy. Apparently, even the girls noticed the boy grew taller. Our protagonist is brimming with joy over having grown just 3 centimeters. Imagine if something else grew. Then the system starts creating an unusual mission in front of him. He's informed that after completing it, he'll receive a gold card and a silver card. But while he's distracted reading the mission, he bumps into someone. Unexpectedly, the girl he bumps into is the same one who was extorting him earlier, Bak Charon. And guess what the mission objective is? Kiss Bak Charon. At that moment, our boy knew he was in serious trouble. Bak then glares at him and asks if he wants a beating for looking at her like that. Our protagonist is going to have a really hard time completing this mission. The girl even thinks that beating him up might make him happy. So Johnson, understanding the consequences, decides to abandon the mission. However, giving up could bring worse consequences than just getting beaten by a girl. Then the system informs him that if he gives up, he'll lose all previously earned rewards, and the mission window will never appear again. And as Johnson begins to think he'll go back to being the garden gnome at 1.68 meters tall, he concludes that he can't give up. And if you're 1.68 meters or shorter and feel offended, feel free to bite my shin. Just kidding. You'll barely reach my calf. But there's one more thing. The boy must complete this mission by the end of the class. Specifically, when the bell rings to go home. All jokes aside, look at this girl. She's way out of our protagonist's league. So he starts freaking out, saying kiss, kiss out loud in the classroom, until he hears someone say it to him. Do you want a kiss? The protagonist asks if it's for real. At that moment, our boy gets all excited. But it was just his weird friend mocking him. Actually, Johnson calls this guy Yakuza. I'm not sure if it's because of his looks or if that's actually his name. Besides, he apparently took a beating from the boys too. So the protagonist asks why he doesn't fight back against his bullies since he looks strong. But then the guy changes the subject, asking about the kiss again. Is Yakuza actually strong? Or is he part of the Yakuza? Very suspicious. Actually, I take that back. This guy looks like someone who'll be beaten up along with Johnson, nothing more. And about the kiss, the protagonist asks his friend what he would do to get a kiss from a girl. Then Yakuza responds, saying he'd be honest with her. But that would never work in Johnson's case. The most he'd get for being honest would be a punch right in the nose. So Yakuza suggests that he pay for the kiss. The protagonist gets excited, but I think that would be worse than being honest. So he scraps that plan. For him to kiss someone, he'd have to be alone with this girl somewhere, and thinking it over, there's only one place where she'd be alone. That would be during physical education. Interestingly, Bake always skips it, using the famous trick to sleep in the classroom. There were many like that where I studied. But this time, the girl wakes up and realizes Johnson is in the room. Then Bake asks if he was staring at her, and he's already starting to get nervous. But she was only teasing him. Taking advantage of the situation, she asks him to grab her a juice. To her surprise, the protagonist had already picked it up before she even asked. Our protagonist is 100% prepared to receive the famous dimensional lick. Bake thinks he's a good servant, while he's considering asking her out. I've never seen a protagonist succeed in situations like these. They're always left defeated. But this could be a nice break from the usual cliché. Could this be the moment? Kim runs and grabs the juice from her hand, and gives the famous dimensional slurp on the juice. The girl is extremely shocked. Our protagonist slams the juice on the table with newfound courage and asks if she has ever kissed anyone before. And he does it all with a stance like the cockroaches from the Men in Black movie. The coffee-addicted cockroaches. Straighten your spine, my man. Then the girl completely cuts his vibe, if you know what I mean, asking if he wants to end up in jail. But the real problem was the boys watching and filming. Unfortunately, I think our protagonist is in deep trouble. The poor girl is even embarrassed. Johnson starts asking the guy to delete the footage. Then he gets angry and yells. As a result, he gets punched. Next, the bully prepares to humiliate him further. As he raises his arm to hit him again, guess who grabs the bully's arm? None other than Bak Charon herself. But this doesn't mean she's going to kiss him right there. Unexpectedly, the bully obeys. Sarcastically, he leaves with his group saying he didn't film anything. This seems like evidence to be used in the future. Stay alert, girl. Before leaving, the girl even advises our protagonist. To the boy's surprise, she tells him to go home and rest instead of just getting beaten up. She's not as mean as I thought. Maybe in the future, Johnson will have a chance with her. But that's only in the future. Because right now, the protagonist is at home crying like a child. The guy regrets even trying. Hang in there, soldier. Life has its twists and turns. Sometimes they're only there to make you feel worse. We really can't have everything in life. But that's okay. Still, our protagonist ended up at a disadvantage. No cart, no kiss, no glasses. It's not easy for this protagonist. But surprisingly, he completed the mission. Those with an IQ above 200 already figured out how he completed it. Even from home, it wasn't the plot that saved him. It was the juice Johnson left for her. Returning to how this happened, it was the famous indirect kiss. Do you really think this counts as a kiss? I don't think so. If you consider that a kiss, I know you've kissed your friend like that. So I think you are. That's why I always wake up at 4 in the morning and climb a mountain to drink water straight from the spring. I'm cautious. But back to our protagonist, at this moment, the gold and silver cards appear. Then the boy asks to reveal the cards. Enough with the fooling around. You may be dumb, but you're no fool, I know that. Actually, I think that's just a guess because I wouldn't bet on this protagonist. And when he looks at the gold card, he's dumbfounded by what he sees. Surprisingly, the card restores his vision to 2.0, and he doesn't even hesitate to use it. But I found it kind of average. Actually, I thought it was average until I saw how he was seeing. In reality, he couldn't see practically anything. And look how things improved after the card's miracle. The guy is ecstatic. But then he remembers he has another card up his sleeve. If you catch my drift, it's not up his sleeve. It's in the system. Even though it's silver. When he reveals the card, he's stunned once again. I think he'll keep doing this just to make us curious too. But he reacts like this because the card is too good to be a silver card. But what's so special about this card? You'll only find out at the end of the video, because now Johnson is running off to tell everyone he's seen better. But his mother wasn't in the kitchen. Only his sister was there, mocking him, saying he got punched in the face again to end up looking like that. Unexpectedly, she also asks him not to talk to her at school. Poor protagonist. Is she ashamed of him for being a failure? Now even at school, he's being targeted a lot. Just because he grew taller and can see doesn't mean he's immune to punches in the stomach. The bully tells him he has the nerve to come back to school after all that. Then the big guy keeps hitting Johnson. I thought this only happened in hidden places, but it's happening in the classroom. And surprisingly, no one helps the boy. This is probably the school of failures. The protagonist needs to complete the mission quickly to be able to defend himself from the bully. And Johnson's friend, Yakuza, only tells him not to eat, to avoid vomiting after getting beaten, because the bully will probably be waiting for him after the cafeteria. And there they are. The bully has forced the protagonist to kneel and apologize, but the boy wasn't actually doing that. He was making up excuses. Unfortunately, the bully noticed. The bully realized that Johnson isn't apologizing sincerely this time, so he slaps the protagonist again and throws the cigarette aside, ordering Johnson to pick it up and smoke it. The bully is literally forcing the boy to smoke his cigarette. This is very wrong. Don't smoke because cigarettes cause cancer. With no way to defend himself, the protagonist was going to pick up the cigarette to use it, when his sister arrives and asks what they're doing. While the boy was defenseless on the ground, the bully immediately asks the protagonist who the girl is. Then he answers that it's his sister, and the bully makes up an excuse to avoid admitting he was beating the boy, pretending they're good friends. Suspicious, his sister asks the boy if it's really true, and the idiot says yes. Maybe this was a chance to put an end to the bullying. But the protagonist didn't have the courage to tell the truth. The bully hugs Johnson to leave, even glancing at his sister on the way out. Then we see that the bully took the protagonist to the bathroom. Unexpectedly, the bully apologizes to the boy. And of course, the bully asks Johnson to introduce him to his sister. And he says this while wiping his hands on the boy's arm. Then the bully insists that he wants to meet Johnson's sister, saying she's very hot. If it were me in this protagonist's place, I'd have already punched this creep. What a miserable bully. I don't think I need to keep repeating that bullying needs to be reported. It's not solved with more violence. Or maybe it is. Just kidding. But maybe it's true. But it's Yakuza who interrupts, having been in the next stall taking care of business. However, Yakuza immediately gets punched in the nose. The bully says he should stop scaring others with that ugly face. Yakuza is 18, but he looks like he's 40. Look, that's actually true. The bully's right. Out of nowhere, the protagonist calls the bully a failure. The bully asks what he said, and he repeats it. Could it be today, folks? The bully goes towards Johnson to punch him. But surprisingly, the boy lands a clean punch on the bully. What happened here? Am I dreaming that this protagonist is fighting back? But it's not a dream, folks. Do you remember the silver card? Well, that card was an attack card. It's a punch that boxers use. Even though it's only level F's 0 out of 100, it's still an attack card. He used a punch. The bully is completely confused. Then the system seizes the opportunity to create another mission. Defeat Choi Chang-dong in the fight. He'll earn a gold and bronze card this time. So Johnson asks Choi if he thinks his sister is hot, and he declares that the bully will swallow those words. And based on what's been shown so far, the gold card seems to change his body directly. The silver one grants him skills. So we're left wondering about the bronze one. After taking the first punch to the nose, the bully says he finds it interesting. Did it shake his brain? I think the bully finally lost it. Even the protagonist is confused by Choi's reaction. Then Choi says that Johnson must have learned that on YouTube and wants to fight. That's how it works. Before the guy finishes talking, the protagonist unexpectedly lands another punch on his nose. Stay alert, man. He caught you off guard. Then Choi starts going into shock, wondering where Johnson learned that. Next, the bully charges at Johnson, furious. But the protagonist stays focused and lands several punches on Choi, leaving the guy unable to move. And guess what? The protagonist not only beat Choi, but even sat on him. That sounds kind of wrong, actually. But mission given is mission accomplished, folks. Yakuza keeps asking if Johnson finished Choi off. And suddenly, Yakuza grabs his friend's hand and says they should get out of there. Then the two of them head to a small house, because Choi's friends will probably come after him. Since bullies never go alone, they're always in those low groups. So if protagonist imagines he'll be beaten up during the break, I don't think he's wrong to think that way. While Johnson is explaining himself about boxing, he receives a notification. Could it be my favorite notification? The system notifies him that at that moment, his boxing skills have increased to 97 out of 100. And Yakuza asks why he's talking to himself, asking if he's gone crazy or is just feeling lonely. And when the protagonist checks, he realizes the cards aren't revealing themselves. So he wonders if he'll have to wait a bit. Suddenly, the girls arrive and both boys are startled. Then Beck says she was looking for him, and Johnson mentions he got into a fight unintentionally. He says this thinking she reported him, but actually Bake wanted to ask him to leave early. Could she be starting to feel empathy for Johnson? But the two end up getting caught on the way. Then Troy looks at Johnson, wondering if it was really him who attacked him. Then the bully's friends start mocking them, calling them losers. The cruiser tries to argue, and Choi quickly punches him. And the guy holding the protagonist gets annoyed with these boys for staring at him. Could it be that these boys came thinking of helping Johnson? Could the school of losers be trying to rise from the depths? I think it's unlikely, but who knows? And the protagonist is nervous, thinking that guy could show up at any moment. Jun, the student who, when he first arrived at school, beat everyone up. And speaking of the man, look who showed up. Ever heard of not saying his name or he'll appear? There's your proof. The guy is happily telling him that the bully is knocked out in the bathroom. Before even finishing his story, he looks into Jun's face. Then he starts thinking about life. How good it was to have lived so long. Then Jun asks who Choi Changdong is, and unexpectedly, he confesses. Obviously, Jun also asks Johnson if Changdong hit him. So the protagonist says yes. Then Jun tells Johnson to lift his head and asks if he really fought with Changdong. The protagonist answers yes. Then Jun asks why Johnson fought with Choi, and Johnson responds that the bully spoke badly about his family. Jun finds it interesting and asks if he's actually good, and he asks Johnson to show him right then and there, because people told him that the protagonist was good at boxing. So the guys start getting excited. Meanwhile, Yakuza is sad because everyone thinks Jun and Johnson are about to fight. Then the protagonist says he knows nothing about boxing. The guy asks if he'll show him or if he'd prefer to get beaten up right there. Well, folks, the protagonist has no choice. Which option would you pick in his place? Would you fight back or would you take the beating without fighting? I don't know. And at that moment, the protagonist looks at his cards and realizes he might be able to use them. But Johnson is under a lot of pressure while Jun stares him down. But this time, the protagonist has his cards up his sleeve, if you know what I mean. The card on the left will restore all of his fatigue and can only be used once per day. But will this card disappear after use? Because if the card stays in the inventory, it's reminding me of a certain technique from a certain someone. I don't know anything. As for the bronze card, it raises his voice. It could have raised something else, but not this time. Honestly, I find this card pretty useless. If he raises his voice during a fight, it's likely the guy will get mad and beat him up. And that's exactly what the protagonist is thinking at the moment, while Jun keeps insisting that Johnson show his boxing skills. Poor Yakuza has already lost hope, and since there's no other choice, the protagonist takes a swing at Jun, and surprisingly, the guy dodges effortlessly. Then Gu makes a face as if he's playing around on the playground. Our protagonist starts to panic, because let's be honest, Jun was incredibly fast. Next, Johnson makes several more attempts to hit Jun, but he can't land a single blow. Then, to Johnson's surprise, Jun decides to show off his agility by hitting him with a punch. What a shame. Oh my goodness. And he's out. 2 hours later. Ken wakes up completely disoriented after a while, because that single punch Jun threw knocked him out like a baby. And when Johnson looks ahead, Gu-ha is there staring at him. The protagonist immediately gets ready for a beating, mixed with the Chave's feint. However, unexpectedly, Jun tells Johnson to follow them because they're going for a smoke. Kim is surprised and doesn't understand anything. Our protagonist was sleeping on the ground, so it's really hard to grasp what's going on. Now outside, Johnson is in the middle of the delinquents. Then the guy points his cigarette at him and tells him to smoke it. Funny enough, no one here asks. They just command. Then the protagonist ends up saying he doesn't smoke. But inside his mind, he's going through a conspiracy theory, thinking that they only took him to that place because they couldn't beat him up inside. Then Jun just asks his name, which is Johnson, obviously, and apologizes for earlier, saying he retaliated and hit him instinctively because the protagonist seems to have talent. Everything Gu-ha says leaves Johnson impressed. Back at Johnson's place, he comments that the missions so far have just been tutorials, and they're giving him gold, silver, and bronze cards. So Johnson wonders, are there stronger missions and stronger cards too? Imagine the abilities superior cards could offer over gold. It must be really overpowered. The next day at school, Johnson and his Yakuza friend are scared, thinking the guys might come after them. And suddenly, someone calls out to Johnson. Unexpectedly, the chubby guy shows up, saying he looked for him everywhere, and the protagonist quickly gets up, ready to fight Choi. But Choi just tells Johnson to go to where Jun is. It seems the chubby guy turned into a messenger after getting beaten by our protagonist. Well, folks, seeing the school leader doesn't sound like a good idea, but if he runs now, he might as well never come back to school. So Johnson gathers courage and goes there. And there's Jun, along with the whole crew, as always smoking a cigarette, which causes cancer. The guy immediately tells Johnson to sit while the girls are whispering, until someone calls for him. To our boy's surprise, it's the possible future girlfriend of our protagonist worried about him again. And someone asks the protagonist to sing a song since they're at karaoke. So Johnson decides to use that high-pitched card and starts singing. And everyone begins to be impressed by the boy's talent. I start feeling secondhand embarrassment. Even Jun is impressed. The girls start praising Johnson, and the guys also start asking if he's friends with Jun. And Jun himself responds affirmatively, saying his name for everyone to hear. Johnson then feels happy, believing he won't get beaten that day, looks at Gu-ha, and thinks he's not as bad as they say. And for the first time the next day, the protagonist actually wants to go to school. Johnson's life started to change, all thanks to the missions. But why am I feeling that many problems are about to come up soon? Am I the only one feeling this way? And speaking of problems, Jun suddenly appears, asking if he's heading to school. Then the protagonist is all happy because the guy invited him to go together. And that was the moment when the main mission began. Yes, the tutorial missions are over. Now it's serious, folks. And upon completing this mission given to him now, he'll be rewarded with a platinum card. And it was when Hajun called him to leave that the mission appeared. The mission to fight against Guba Jun himself and win. The guy is the leader of the Gankuk Siu prep school, and the protagonist has only 3 days to complete it. Well, folks, it's going to get harder now. And besides the main one, the system activated a secondary mission for him. A mission where he can earn more cards from now on. But for that, you'll have to like the video. Otherwise, the system won't give cards to anyone here. As for Johnson hitting Hajun, he could ask to train with him and then go for a sneaky knockout. Although with Hajun's reflexes, I think that's practically impossible. So the protagonist starts freaking out, not knowing what to do. Meanwhile, the guy notices and asks if Johnson wants to tell him something. The result is the protagonist in shock, not knowing whether to eat or ponder life, although he could easily do both at the same time. Even his friend seems a bit worn out. Obviously, it's because Hajun is also at the table. So the cruiser asks Johnson why that guy was there, and it's obvious it's because the protagonist is his friend. And the worst part is that Hajun is being really polite, saying he'll leave first. You never guess he'll probably want to beat up Johnson later. Then out of nowhere, the protagonist says it's easy. Yakuza asks if he's easy or what the protagonist wants to do with him. Johnson tells him to shut up. What the protagonist was thinking is that he could simply quit the mission and stay close friends with Hajun being protected forever. And as he's about to greet Guha, he sees the guy smashing the bully on the ground. While Choi is taking a beating and apologizing at the same time, Hajun seems unfazed. The poor protagonist can't believe what he's seeing. The one who has to rub it in his face to make him understand is his maybe future girlfriend, Bakcharan. The girl who can barely cross her arms. Just look. And she tells him that the guy's getting beaten up because he hasn't been paying them recently. Kim knows this well, as he's one of the ones who pays, or used to pay, the most. And all that money goes straight into Hajun's pocket. So she warns Johnson, saying that since the guy has been nice to him lately, he should know what kind of person Hajun really is. And when the protagonist looks up, there's the guy smiling and asking how long he's been standing there. From the look on his face, you never guess he was just beating someone up. The protagonist says he just arrived and has something to ask him. So Johnson asks Hajun why he's being so nice to him. Surprised, Hajun asks what he's talking about. Then Hajun says it's because Johnson is really good at boxing. Then Gu says that before meeting the protagonist, everyone else was like insects to him. No one had any strength. At that moment, Johnson has that thought again. If he just quits the mission and goes back to being his old self, Hajun won't want to hang out with him anymore. And he'll want to beat him up just like the others do. Then Google wants to know why he's so curious, shaking him like a wacky waving inflatable arm man, saying he can tell him what's going on. Of course he can, believe it. Go on and tell him you want to knock him out so we can see what happens. But then again, he might like it. If he tells him he wants to fight him, the guy might actually enjoy that. And since the protagonist has no other choice, all he can do is train to try to overcome Hajun. But obviously, that won't be easy. The guy is practically the Mike Tyson of real life. So all the protagonist can do is use his cards and hope the guy trips and breaks his neck on his own. Because fighting him hand-to-hand is going to be very tough. And otherwise, everything's good. Then, while Johnson is resting, some people come up asking him for money to pay for the fare. And when the protagonist says he doesn't even have money to buy a better tank top, the guys ask if he still doesn't understand the situation, saying they'll tear him apart. So protagonist repeats that he has no money. And the guy insists that he's going to beat him up. So there it is. Mess around, get smacked, my friend. Quickly, the guy touches his nose and says, "Oh, so you're the type that hits first." Obviously, they arrive threatening him. They should get punched in the nose for that. And with that one punch the protagonist threw, he managed to level up his jab mastery, which was still lacking. Now that he's reached the skill limit and has gone up to rank E, and the protagonist immediately feels it, and he's very happy. Then the guy tries to catch him off guard and gets another punch in the nose to keep him alert. Apparently, Johnson is faster and stronger now. And even with the guy semi-knocked out, he punches him again to make sure his nose will stay good and swollen afterward. Furious, the guy orders his henchmen to finish him off. Obeying their leader's orders, the guys approach Johnson. And it's at that moment the system creates a secondary mission, a mission to fight 5 people at once and win. These missions are getting easier, aren't they? There's even a secret requirement we don't know about, because it's a secret, right? And the system even lets him give up on the secondary missions. So when he thinks about quitting, the guys are already coming toward him to beat him up. Then out of nowhere, he does something here that I didn't quite understand, and calls everyone to fight. Why did he do that to his tank top? I'm feeling secondhand embarrassment for this protagonist. Is it just me? The protagonist is such a fool. But at least he's getting stronger, which is what matters. And as we can tell, he only earns points for this card by beating up guys, not training alone. Kim even used the high-pitch card to say he wasn't afraid of them, even while crying. Now that's courage. The guys watch him with psychopathic expressions, asking if he trains boxing, and suddenly they charge at him. They seem a bit disturbed too. The protagonist, wearing his feminine-style X-shaped tank top, punches one of the guys without hesitation. The man falls to the ground, eyes wide open. I don't even know where I am right now. The protagonist even wonders if he finished the guy off, but it seems he just knocked him out. Well, at least now there are only 4 left. After several attempts by the others to revive the guy, the protagonist finally understands that a punch to the chin leads to a knockout. Now he's learned. One of them yells to capture the protagonist, while the others start getting ready. And here they come. Then the protagonist also charges forward, of course. Obviously, he wouldn't just stand still. If they surround him, it's almost certain to be his end. But it seems they finally reach Johnson. However, our protagonist seems out of energy. They're the ones who smoke, but he's the one out of breath. They keep saying he's tired, but he doesn't stand a chance. But the protagonist suddenly pulls out the famous Dragon Ball bean. Old school fans will understand. Then Johnson swallows it without even a glass of water, just like that. It's the famous recovery bean. It was that silver card he kept next to the high-pitch one. It finally came in handy. Then the first of the clueless guys charges at Johnson. The protagonist throws a powerful jab at him, dodges forward, and lands 5 more jabs. The opponent is left confused, wondering, wasn't this guy tired? Now it's too late to complain, you idiot. Especially since the second guy has already been knocked out and defeated. But we have to admit, his tank top still looks strange. I'm still trying to understand why he did that to his own clothing. And honestly, I'm almost afraid there might actually be a logical explanation. Like I twisted the tank top to keep it from falling. Oh sure, now that 2 of the 5 idiots have been defeated, they're finally starting to worry. Isn't it a bit late for that, guys? Suddenly, the protagonist charges at them, shouting. He lands a punch on the first guy's chin, then the second, and finishes with a chin hit on the third. It's always the chin. So he defeated all 5 at once. Our protagonist is relentless. And in the midst of all this, that secret objective was achieved. He defeated 5 guys without getting hit. The system even congratulates him for it, and it's not even his birthday. Look how impressive that is. And by completing the secret objective, he'll receive an additional gold card. 2 more cards in a side mission. At this rate, the protagonist is going to get strong quickly. There's no other way. Even he understands he's lucky. That's right. Just the fact that the system appears for him already makes him lucky, my friend. And there he goes with his X-shaped tank top, requesting the card reveal. As always, his expression makes us extremely curious. It's impossible to tell if the card is amazing or a total fraud. The protagonist always makes these expressions that confuse us. The next day at school, there's little time left to finish his mission to defeat Hajun. So Johnson is pensive. Actually, he's completely nervous. Right now, he has 4 cards. High pitch, recovery bean, and 2 more we still don't know about. They keep making it suspenseful. But is that enough to face the monster? Now, he has no choice. If he fails, he'll go back to being the loser who got beaten up by everyone. Suddenly, Yakuza asks if he wants to kiss him. This Yakuza is crazy. He said that because the protagonist was staring at him. Kim even laughs at this moment, because Yakuza is his true friend, the one who's been by his side all this time. So Johnson thanks Yakuza for helping him up to this point, and Yakuza is left completely confused, not understanding a thing. This gives me the impression that Yakuza is hiding something and is actually the true leader of the school. But then the school boss arrives. Hajun shows up inviting the protagonist to go to the cafeteria with that expression on his face. Is it an invitation or a threat? The protagonist immediately stands up because he's no fool. Suddenly, 2 students show up, and one of them is holding an ice cream. Look at that. Imagine the scene. The guy throws the ice cream at Hajun. He starts apologizing immediately, but it seems it's already too late. The protagonist and Bakcharan realize the situation is about to get complicated, and Yakuza is ready to seal a deal. This will be the most expensive ice cream the guy's ever paid for in his life. While Hajun holds the guy to hit him, he invites the protagonist to go to the cafeteria again. However, the protagonist asks him to stop. Let the guy go, or we're going to fight. And look at that, the protagonist finally got some courage. Or he's gone crazy, that's also an option. Hajun calls him by name and asks if he knows what he's doing. So the protagonist replies, "Of course I do, you idiot. Enough talking. Let's settle this with a fight, man. Now I see who Yakuza is getting ready to bury." Just kidding, folks. Maybe with that gold card, the protagonist can headbutt Hajun's hand. He could have just invited him for a friendly spar, sure, but since he's decided to do this, let's see how it goes. Looking on the bright side, at least the protagonist isn't wearing that crisscross tank top right now. That's true. He can challenge the school's top guy out of nowhere. When he realizes it, Hajun's hand's already coming his way. I thought he was done for. But it was just to say he's a loyal guy, asking if Johnson is mad because he's messing with his friends. The protagonist starts getting confused while Hajun asks him to stop being angry. And he says friends shouldn't fight with each other. And man, look at the size of Hajun's hand. It covers Johnson's whole head. And out of nowhere, the guy grabs the protagonist and takes him to get something to eat. During break time, the famous whispers start going around, those classic gossip sessions. One of the girls comments to another that a weird kid picked a fight with Hajun. But too bad if he didn't succeed. However, no one expected Hajun to apologize. They thought Hajun would have skinned the protagonist alive. That's why the protagonist is sad. Yes, he's sad he didn't manage to start a fight. Yakuza tries to console him, but the mission is about to expire. It's hard for the protagonist not to feel down. It's like Samson's about to lose his hair, you know? And Yakuza asks why he's feeling this way. The protagonist says it's because of Hajun. And suddenly, someone calls him. Obviously, it's the brunette who can't stay away from our protagonist. She arrives asking if he's trying to pick a fight with Hajun, and he says he doesn't know. Now it's his turn to ask her. He quickly asks why she's hanging out with Hajun, considering she helped him with Choi Changdong. told him about Hajun, and helped him other times. And come to think of it, she doesn't bully the weaker ones. In short, she must be a good person. And we agree she's actually a really good person. Her response is that it's comfortable being around the guys. And the protagonist says it's the same for him. Then she cuts him off, telling him not to cross the line because she's giving him some respect. And before he realizes it, the protagonist is already drinking her juice. And suddenly, someone calls the protagonist, all panicked. Something big is happening. This big thing is one of Hajun's gang members asking why Yakuza wants to talk to Hajun. They claim Hajun wouldn't want to talk to someone like him. The guy was already about to go after Yakuza when Hajun shows up and tells everyone to get out of the way. He asks why Yakuza called him. And very annoyed, he says Johnson shouldn't be bothered because he's acting strange today because of him. Yakuza emphasizes to Hajun that what he's doing is bullying. Then Hajun punches Yakuza in the face so hard even his henchmen are scared of him. Then Hajun says that he and Johnson are friends and that he also hates people like Yakuza, saying he doesn't even seem like a real person. Wow, that was harsh. He says there are ranks in this world and Yakuza is holding Johnson back from climbing those ranks. He's dragging Johnson's rank down. But Yakuza says that if that's what he thinks about Johnson, then Johnson doesn't consider him a friend. Out of nowhere, Johnson shows up and lands a punch on Hajun's chin, leaving even the henchmen in shock. Not even Hajun understood what just happened. The protagonist immediately asks Yakuza if he knows that, if it weren't for him, he wouldn't have survived this unbearable school life. Of course, the rumors have already spread far and wide. They ran through every classroom, shouting that the fight was happening outside. Quickly, a crowd gathers to watch. But they're all saying this won't be a fight, it'll be a massacre. Everyone's there to see the showdown. Yakuza, the protagonist's brunette crush, Miyu and Hajun, asks if Johnson really wants to fight. After all, until then he thought Johnson was his friend. The protagonist says he's going to make things very clear from that moment on. The only friend he has is Yakuza, and he even dropped a son of a bitch at the end just to make it clear he was mad. He's confident he'll beat Hajun because his gold card gives him extra strength for only 5 seconds. So he declares he'll take down the guy in 5 seconds. Oh, that was a dumb move. He should have used that card on the first punch he threw. Hit him until he won. That's how he would have won. Now he missed his chance, gave the lion an opening, and will have to endure the hits. And the worst part is that Hajun genuinely thought he was his friend. But that superior attitude doesn't mix with friendships. But as we see, this fight isn't happening in the arcade, folks. Do you think the protagonist can win this fight playing fair? The protagonist now claims he'll win the fight in 5 seconds. So everyone thinks he must have some kind of problem. And the troublemakers start saying today will be his funeral. I think so too. Look at Hajun's size next to Johnson. It's not going to end well. But it's obvious that the protagonist prepared for this. He comes in throwing a punch in Hajun's face, leaving Yakuza impressed. The protagonist's future girlfriend too. But the problem is he missed the hit. Hajun even comments that the 5 seconds he mentioned have already passed. Everyone is amazed, saying it felt like watching a boxing match. They're more impressed that the protagonist, who was once a failure, is now a failed boxer. A bit of an upgrade, right? That's true. The people in the crowd say Hajun can't fight back because the protagonist just keeps moving forward and hitting non-stop. But I don't think that's what's happening here. The fools there start panicking, not knowing what to do if Hajun loses. But Hajun losing to such an exhausted protagonist is almost impossible. It's easier for me to win the lottery without ever playing than for that to happen. Well, maybe not that unlikely. But if Hajun advances and punches the protagonist in the ribs, and my friend, that rib punch could straighten out your nose. And the protagonist quickly falls to the ground because after a well-placed punch like that, there's no way not to fall. And if Hajun is already feeling cocky, asking if that's all the protagonist can do. What surprises the crowd is that, once again, the protagonist starts talking about the 5 seconds. So if Hajun gets furious and comes in with his punch again, then Hajun asks if he intends to win the fight only by using jabs. But that's not all the protagonist prepared for the fight. He has that famous 5-second card. That's why he keeps insisting on it, claiming it will give him extra strength. Now we need to find out what this card actually is. Then the protagonist acts impulsively, advancing towards Hajun in a very reckless way. But of course, Hajun lands another punch on Johnson's mouth. The others start laughing because he's trying to take down Hajun despite the weight difference. And again, Johnson keeps talking about the 5 seconds, charging forward fearlessly once more. Again, Hajun strikes him. Hajun can't even comprehend what Johnson is trying to do, and he keeps charging forward, taking hits repeatedly. Finally, he manages to get close to Hajun. When that happens, he takes the Dragon Ball pill to restore his physical strength. However, during this process, Hajun starts getting extremely irritated as the protagonist is clinging to him. Others try to intervene to break up the fight because the situation is getting serious. Hajun states that he genuinely wants to finish him off at that moment. When Hajun tries to push the protagonist away, he can no longer do so as Johnson is glued to him, having finally used the additional strength card. The card itself is simply a card that grants the protagonist 100 kilograms of strength, bringing his total to 156 kilograms. However, we have to admit that this scene of him clinging to Hajun is quite strange. I think there The guys start getting surprised because they see the protagonist lifting Hajun off the ground. With his current 156 kilograms strength, he lifts his opponent and slams him onto his back on the floor. Hajun immediately feels the impact. Next week, he'll probably have to go to school in a wheelchair, at the very least. And it doesn't stop there. The protagonist takes off his hoodie and ridiculously makes the X symbol with his tank top, which I still don't understand why he keeps doing to this day. Then he starts throwing punches at Hajun's face while he's on the ground. It's a 156 kilograms punch. No one can withstand that. And with Hajun, it was no different. The protagonist begins a sequence of very powerful punches to Hajun's face until the extra strength card effect wears off. After all that, Hajun finally loses. Our protagonist, wearing his X-style tank top, achieved victory. Mission complete, folks. And no one believes it, not the brunette, not Yakuza, not me, not you, absolutely no one. When it shows that he earned the platinum card, he shouts, immediately requesting the card reveal. He actually defeated the school's leader in a fight. This protagonist is impressive. He just didn't need to make that ridiculous X symbol on his tank top. But aside from that, all's good. Now we just need to find out what power this platinum card will have since the gold ones were already unique. After that fall, Hajun must still be in the hospital. They say that after the humiliation he faced in front of the entire school, they wouldn't want to go back either. After all, he lost to none other than the school's biggest loser. It's true. And someone shouts for them to stay quiet because the new leader is passing by. Then you realize who the leader is, and it's the loser protagonist strutting stiffly down the hallway. So everyone seems to be scared of him. Kim walks straight to the bathroom to examine the platinum card he earned with much effort by defeating Hajun. He immediately asks to reveal the card because there's no styling here. Just kidding. And even the atmosphere starts to change. The card he got is a spying card. He can literally spy on someone. Are you thinking what I'm thinking, folks? So the protagonist wonders what this is. He feels a bit disappointed that it's not an attack card. But what exactly is spying? Suddenly, someone asks what he's mumbling about in the bathroom. And it's none other than Yakuza asking if he's ready. Ready for everyone to be talking and whispering about him at school. The protagonist is in shock with everything happening at that moment. Even some girls are commenting that he's kind of cute. But one of them quickly interrupts, saying it's just a trick. In the end, he's worthless. However, somehow, everyone is talking about him. It's funny because when he was a loser riding a beat-up car, no one noticed him. Now everyone talks about him very well. And people are talking so much that they started saying that Johnson here beat up Hajun's father. How absurd. Could you imagine Johnson beating up the guy's father? Makes no sense. But the worst part is that this actually happens in real life. People exaggerate the story 30 times over. And the rumors about Yakuza are that he's the son of a Yakuza member and 48 years old. How absurd. I might believe the 48-year-old part, but as for the Yakuza bit, that's hard to believe. And according to the students, they fought for 3 days and nights to take over the school's leadership. But now the guy is walking upside down until he headbutts someone out of nowhere. And that person seems huge. This guy wants to know if he knows any Johnson who beat up Hajun. The protagonist, scared, immediately says it's him, Johnson. And suddenly, everyone bows wildly. I say wildly because it's surreal. Our protagonist, as always, is in shock, not understanding what's happening. But obviously, it's because he's now the new leader of Ganbuk-Seo High School. And the protagonist, still a loser at heart, starts saying that he's not the leader, that they shouldn't be bowing to him, and that they should leave. So the guys are disappointed because they want to be led by the protagonist, and they walk away disappointed. The protagonist asks Yakuza what's going on. Yakuza explains that he was Hajun's subordinate and now seems to want to be his. But why would people want to follow him? Once again, Yakuza responds that it's probably because they want the schools to unite. If you look at the map, they're separated now. And Hajun, the former leader, didn't want to unify them. So in a way, they want to use the protagonist, the failure, to bring it all together. Of course, the protagonist doesn't want to get involved until a new mission appears for him. The mission to rule the Gangbuk schools. And it seems there are 3 stages to this mission. The first is to recruit a first-year student from his school. Wow, the system has its eyes on him. We'll still find out what the reward is, right? And as always, to complicate the protagonist's life, he can't quit. If he does, he'll suffer. So he already starts feeling the pressure, as if he loses the talents he's gained, he'll go back to being a failure. More of a failure than he already is. Because even with talent, he's still a failure. Imagine without it, you get me? And he quickly starts calling the others idiots, saying he was only testing them. They weren't supposed to leave. The older one even gets emotional. I think this guy has some obsession with the protagonist. And the protagonist, with the most annoyed expression ever, declares that he's taking over the school leadership from that moment. The guys get all excited, but of course, a tear rolls down the protagonist's face because he knows he's in deep trouble. And back in the classroom, the protagonist feels a chill in his stomach. He knows he can't panic because it's exactly in these moments that missions backfire on him. And by the way, check out his big platinum card. He needs to test it on someone today. However, the concept of spying is very vague. It's hard to tell exactly what that means. Suddenly, his future brunette shows up, asking what he's doing and if he really is the new school leader. And the protagonist tries to explain himself until she gets all serious, asking why he's looking at her like that. She starts questioning if he's crazy, and out of nowhere, he says, spying. She's like, what kind of crap is this dude? But obviously, he's using his ability. He's spying on Charon, which makes her feel all embarrassed. But here's the thing, is he spying the way I think you think we're all thinking? Yeah, the protagonist a bit of a sneak, but it seems it wasn't the kind of spying we were imagining. When he uses the spying ability, what he sees are the person's abilities. He kind of visualizes her stats, you know? And the girl is standing there saying she feels unwell, asking what he did. Poor thing. I say poor thing because she's got an E in strength, a D in speed, but she does have some intelligence. As the saying goes, it's not all roses. It's true. Then the protagonist stops to think and realizes he should use this ability on himself too. And he notices his own strength is trash. His speed is even worse. He's got a bit of endurance, but he's smart and has a lot of potential. And that's what matters. The rest we get with cards. And out of nowhere, the girl stands up and slaps Johnson, walking off, telling him to go, well, you know where. But in the end, he realizes that this new power of his is impressive. Imagine being able to check people's stats before getting into a fight. If he sees the guy is strong, he just runs off. But the problem isn't him, it's the stupid bullies they're dealing with. Because these guys keep picking fights with everyone, bossing people around. People are now afraid to go meet the protagonist, fearing they'll get hit. And in the bullies' minds, everything is wonderful. They're saying they're happy with the new leader. Sure they are. And the protagonist starts whispering for them to say what they need to say and get out of there. Then the guy remembers he has to hand over the monthly payment. The protagonist starts questioning the blood on the envelope. The guy says it's from the first-year students. The guys were beaten to get the money. But if the protagonist doesn't want it, someone else will. Check out Yakuza pocketing the money. Yakuza's record is just getting longer. The guy's a loan shark now, punched the principal, and is the son of a Yakuza. What else can we add to his resume? And as the protagonist keeps refusing the money, the guy starts thinking he's turning it down because it's too little. I have a feeling the first-year students are going to get beaten up even more because of this. But the protagonist just wants them to leave. And out of nowhere, the protagonist decides to use the spying ability on that bully over there. And guess what? The guy's actually smart. I didn't see that coming. He also has average resistance, strength, and speed. But the potential? He'll be living under a bridge. The guy even blushes a bit. But I think this time it's because of the abilities the protagonist used on him. The girl reacted the same way, or maybe he's just crazy. The protagonist was already leaving when the guy mentioned an initiation ceremony. And guess what? Again, the main mission has been updated. That's right. Now he has to do the initiation ceremony. Wow, man. And there's no choice. He'll have to do this ceremony. On one side, the guys, and on the other side, more guys, obviously. And there's our protagonist. And everyone is bowing to him. Of course, alongside him is the co-partner of the school's grand leader, the guy who even intimidated the principal, Yakuza. The protagonist simply stands up and says he won't participate in that nonsense anymore. And Yakuza is sitting there acting all high and mighty. The bully is trying to explain how they'll take over all the schools. I'll summarize it because even the protagonist didn't want to pay attention. Imagine us. Basically, there are a bunch of psychos in the schools. In every school, the leaders are insanely strong. And the bully's idea is to unite Gangbuck, so they won't be swallowed by them. While the protagonist is asking if they can't just swallow each other up, Yakuza is there, asking the guys for water and making them fetch it for him. He sure knows how to take advantage of power. And no, the guys can't swallow each other up because they're currently watching this school. They heard about a guy who walks around with an X-shaped tank top who goes around punching everyone. No way he's being recognized for that ridiculous X-shaped tank top he wears. Even the protagonist gets annoyed at this. But the guys only know about it because the delinquent himself is spreading these rumors. Who needs enemies when you have allies like that? The protagonist gets very annoyed and tells the guys to stop following him. And the guy's still there, asking if he'll be going to the Gangbuck meeting. The protagonist says he won't, that he has more important things to do. And already back at the protagonist's apartment, here's the important thing he had to do. Yes, he's selling K-pop. And while he's happy with that, he's thinking about the meeting. And out of nowhere, his sister arrives home, cursing him out like crazy. Because she said at school she's only known as the sister of the school's leader. Wow, now the news is spreading far. The protagonist tells her to relax, that he's not going to that Gangbuck meeting. The girl doesn't even know what he's talking about, but says that if he goes, she'll tell their mom. Look at that, a real tattletale. But the protagonist is very happy that his life has finally returned to normal. But I don't think it'll be for long, protagonist, because little by little, we're seeing his future rivals. This guy who's beating someone up is the #1 of Gangbuck Dong Hai. His name is Han No Jatar. Yeah, that's about what I got from his name. And this guy here who's not beating anyone up, just casually bowling from Gangbuck Mam High is named Douglas. I gave him this name because he looks like a Douglas, right? Doesn't he? And on the beach, where the bully is thinking about the protagonist, wondering if what he said was another test for him, he gets a call. Yes, man. It's the protagonist saying he'll attend the Gangbuck meeting. The system forced him again. The protagonist has become a hostage to the system. Maybe it would have been better if he just stayed a loser. But look on the bright side. This time, the reward is juicy. A gold card and 10 bronze cards. He'll probably even learn ballet with these cards. And to me, the protagonist has been acting like Yakuza lately. The guy's clever. No doubt about it, he's using the protagonist's henchmen to fetch water and do other things for him. The protagonist needs to use the spying ability on him to see if he's got an A in intelligence, because this guy's a genius. And the one who's going to arrange the meeting for him is the crazy delinquent, the guy who's probably going to get the protagonist in trouble. And the one who's most screwed in this story is Johnson himself, but he has no choice. He'll have to go or go back to being the biggest loser. And then the delinquent gives a sly smile, saying he'll set everything up. The protagonist immediately realizes he's going to do something reckless. There's no denying it, but it's not like he has any other choice. And now in the classroom, the protagonist is there spying on the others. Yes, that's right, he's spying on everyone in his class. And according to him, it's fun to spy on people. But it's not fun for those being spied on. They feel embarrassed, like they're really being watched. And only now does the protagonist, the failure, realize this. However, he also discovers he can improve this spy card. It'll take a long time to level it up, but eventually, he'll get there. We just need to figure out what changes when this card is upgraded. Out of nowhere, the protagonist glances at the brunette and uses the spy card again. But this time, he aimed for beauty and hit Yakuza. The protagonist just wanted to understand why he reacts that way and also wants to know why our friend Yakuza has an S-rank potential. His other stats are quite low, but that S leaves us wondering, who is Yakuza? I don't know. Then we find out his real name is Yang Gucha. So we'll need to stay alert because we might get some clues from his name. And today is the big day of the meeting, folks. The protagonist only needs to attend, grab the cards, and leave quickly. Well, at least that's the initial plan. So Yakuza goes with him, and the protagonist only hopes to make it back in one piece, because the guys must be strong and he wants everything to go well. Then Yakuza says things going well will be difficult. Because the protagonist looks ahead, all his henchmen are there. If he takes all these guys, there will surely be serious problems. The delinquent says he's prepared the guys in case anything unexpected happens there. They even brought someone whose grandfather is in the hospital about to kick the bucket. It's looking like they're heading to war. Yakuza has already warned the protagonist to brace himself because tonight's dinner will be in hell. Oh my god. Yakuza is really the best character in the series. The protagonist tries to convince the others to stop the chaos while the other students just watch. At that moment, the protagonist told everyone to go home, taking only 3 with him. The delinquent saw this differently, thinking the protagonist doesn't need more than 3 people to take on everyone. So everyone is sent home, including the guy with the grandfather. The team this time will be Yakuza, the tough guy, Johnson, the scaredy cat, and this nutcase. I have a slight problem. There's no way this will work. No chance. And as always at another school, if guy is getting beaten up by rank 1 from there, apparently for no reason. This guy will be a problem for our Shinobi Alliance. We'll have to seal him like Madara. Luckily, this old guy here restrained the guy by grabbing his arm, although the old man also took a beating. And that's when another one of his henchmen arrived, saying the meeting would start soon. Yep, folks, this crazy guy is going to the meeting. And here's the location, an abandoned building where the Gangbuk School's meeting will take place. The protagonist mentions that even if a meeting happens there, no one will know because the place is so isolated. The delinquent asks if the protagonist plans to finish everyone off that day since he's talking like that. This guy already got it all wrong. There's no way to tell if he's just playing dumb. And the protagonist enters the place nervously, afraid of getting hit as soon as he walks in, but the guys welcome him warmly. When a guy introduces himself as Kang Seok, the protagonist makes a joke, saying his name has only 1 syllable. Seok, Kang Seok. After that, the protagonist sits down for the meeting. But why are you talking about this joke? Because the guys thought the protagonist said, such Kang Seok, which translated would mean something rude like suck, Kang Seok. I think the guy's going to get pretty mad at the protagonist now. I'm going to finish you, man. But the protagonist just wants to complete the mission and leave, but it's not done yet. The reason it's not complete is that not everyone has arrived. And speaking of which, look who just showed up. Now things are getting interesting. The guy already comes in talking nonsense. Douglas greets him calmly, and the others just lower their heads to avoid being noticed. When the protagonist realizes he's completed the mission and gained all the cards, he gets up to leave. But halfway through, the guy grabs him by the neck, asking where he thinks he's going since he only came there because of Johnson. Now things just got worse. He says that since the protagonist defeated Hajun, he now has to fight him too. But I'll tell you, without opening the new cards he earned, he doesn't stand a chance of winning against this guy. And besides, the cards he earned are also bronze. I don't think even the cards will help. I take back what I said. The Fujoshis watching this scene right now must be like, is this the part you wanted? Yes, that part exactly. I have to admit, this show is trash. But now I want to see the protagonist use that spying ability on this guy just to see if he's really that strong. However, if he uses it now, he'll have to run for at least 3 days and nights. So I don't think that'll work. Let's save it for next time. But out of nowhere, the guy gets impressed with the protagonist because he's laughing in the face of danger. But he hasn't gone completely crazy like the Joker to be laughing like that. It's just that if he acts any differently, the system will probably complicate his life again, forcing him to fight this guy, just like it did with Hajun that time. And the K-pop band member is looking at him. So the protagonist stands frozen and still to avoid being bothered by the system again. But the guys see it totally differently. They say the protagonist not only provoked Lollipop Kang Siak, but also isn't backing down from Han no Jatar. They even say the protagonist is studying the guy's movements, looking for his weak spot. Look how I see this scene in just 2 seconds. All right, I can't take it anymore. But the guys are blinded by Johnson in the tank top. The rumors are only growing and they're getting bigger each time. So much so that last time they said Yakuza beat up the principal. Now they're saying Johnson in the tank top holds other people's families hostage. Look at that. The stuff people come up with. But the one who's going to take advantage of this situation is Douglas himself, who'll attack them while they're tired. And just look at the protagonist's face, like he's the one who's going to get tired in this fight. Are you kidding me? Then Han no Jader himself starts laughing because no one's ever provoked him like that before. And suddenly, another guy shows up saying they can't fight. Han no Jatar immediately grabs the guy's head, asking if he's lost his mind. And let me tell you, he didn't even take his hand out of his pocket. This guy's tough too. Han no Jatar was about to take him down, but then the guy says they should be cautious about Douglas because if the two of them fight, Douglas will surely interfere at the worst possible moment. Then he asks Han no Jatar to calm down, saying this won't be the last time he'll see Johnson in the tank top. There will be other opportunities. The guy's sensible. You can't deny that. He laid all his cards on the table, literally. His intelligence must be at least an S rank. And when Han no Jatar looks over at Douglas, he's there waving shamelessly. Then he looks at our brave protagonist and says he's not interested anymore. You're lucky you chickened out. Otherwise, we'd be having from for dinner tonight. And that's it for the meeting today. Then Douglas says that if they see each other again, they should greet each other since they know each other now. But why do I feel like they'll greet each other with a flying kick? I don't know. And there's also the fact that one of the schools didn't even show up. But the protagonist is very happy because he managed to leave the meeting without any broken ribs. That's progress. But he doesn't want to leave the meeting empty-handed either. So he decides to use the spying ability on the guys. But what he sees is absolutely nothing, because his spying rank is still too low, so the guys must be very strong if he can't see anything. So the next day, the protagonist is looking like a zombie, and when he looks forward, he sees all the bullies crying, saying they know everything. The protagonist is very humble. Then Johnson seems very confused by all of this, and you might already guess what happened here for them to be saying this. What they know about the protagonist is that he used the Tiger Dragon Fist to knock out Han no Jatar. In fact, the whole school had already heard that news. Let me ask you, who could spread this nonsensical information? Who could it be? That crazy bully spreading it all. That's right, Johnson, your little nightmare is just beginning. And the rumors just keep growing. This time, they said the protagonist defeated his own master and stole his move. For me, the best rumor still has to be that Yakuza is a principal beater and the son of a real Yakuza. That rumor is the best of all. And since the protagonist is very sick, he heads straight to the infirmary. Johnson has a fever and is full of aches due to stress. And this is the protagonist before remembering he has cards to open. And this is the protagonist after remembering he has cards to open. He's miraculously cured now. And look at the huge number of cards he has. So he goes straight for the gold card because he doesn't want to waste time. I think I'm the only fool who starts with the least tasty part of the food, saving the best part for last, and then out of nowhere, someone shows up asking for a piece. Right when I get to the best part of the food, the unlucky one asks for a piece. The urge to laugh is big, but the urge to drop kick them is even bigger. It's true. And the protagonist is impressed because the card he pulls out is called the Master of Cards. He can now combine in separate cards using it. The protagonist is confused at first but quickly understands what it's about. Then he reveals all the bronze cards. And here they are, but unfortunately, none of them are particularly useful. So Johnson uses the combine ability on 2 of them. Successfully, he combines a silver card. Amazingly, he gets lucky right off the bat, obtaining a boxing cross punch. Now his arsenal of punches is getting interesting. Another skill for the protagonist. Johnson blushes a bit, realizing he has the biggest treasure in his hands now. All he needs is the luck to open it without finding anything rusty. And with the remaining cards, he decides to combine 4 more. And once again, he's lucky, pulling 2 silver cards from the 4 bronze ones he combined. The 2 cards are about sports, making 3-point shots and taking penalty kicks. They wouldn't be bad in other circumstances, but they don't help the protagonist at all at the moment. So with the silver cards in hand, he briefly considers combining them, glances at the gold card, afraid of messing it up, and finally decides to combine the 2 silver cards. Amazingly, he gets another gold card, and when he checks it, the card is called Master. Please, its description reads, "How dare a servant answer back?" Does this mean the protagonist will start building a gang of bullies? The protagonist, as if he didn't care, suddenly smacks himself. Looks like this chapter is about masochism, and of course that slap he gave himself hurt like crazy. But why didn't it have any effect? Probably because he hit himself. Still, the main mission starts. We just hope it doesn't involve something like beating up Goku, Saitama, or someone like that, because that would be impossible. This time, the mission is to recruit 4 members for his group. By doing so, they'll earn a gold card. But the protagonist is suspicious. There has to be a catch. It can't be this easy. "Hey, Yakuza, do you want to join my group?" "Sure." That easy? And yes, he already has one of the 4 members. And then you see who's coming down the hallway. Of course, the protagonist asks if he also wants to join the group. The guy even drops what he's holding because in his mind, the protagonist is finally forming a group to unify Gangbuck. This guy is really delusional. Meanwhile, Yakuza is just on his new phone, not even caring about the hallway. About the protagonist's question, if the guy wants to join his group. After kneeling and declaring he'll only call him boss from now on, the protagonist regrets inviting him and leaves with Yakuza. And Yakuza calls him boss, still mocking him. Right. Now it's getting complicated to think about who to invite to the group, as the missions will probably relate to these people. So he decides he'll use the spy ability more to find better qualified individuals. At that moment, as he's deep in thought, someone casts his shadow over him. And it's none other than the protagonist's brunette. Johnson stands up immediately. Not the Johnson you're thinking of, it's him. So protagonist asks what she's doing there. She's there because she lives nearby. She says she's leaving. The protagonist mentions he'll see her at school the next day. But have you noticed how she gets mad at him over anything? Suspicious, isn't it? That's when the protagonist remembers something and calls her back, saying he has a favor to ask. A favor? I thought. Is he going to ask her to join his group? He approaches her and asks if she can slap him. Man, things just got wild. He says it's something he needs to verify physically, but obviously he wants to test his gold card. But the girl blushes and asks if he likes that sort of thing too. Could she be a masochist, that girl? That's what it sounded like, didn't it? He says he feels like something good will happen if he takes a few slaps. Then, unexpectedly, she asks if he wants her to insult him while hitting him. She really does enjoy hitting people. Look what we've uncovered here in this story. Interesting. No, wait. When she was about to slap the protagonist, someone asks if he enjoys that kind of thing, saying he likes getting beat up. The protagonist was caught in the act. We lost this one. The protagonist asks who they are. Obviously, it's the guys he knocked out the day before. They're back to take revenge on Kang Seok, saying he's no longer with them. But the guy is right there, just speaking in a funny way. But he's there, isn't he? Is that what they meant by not with us anymore? Was the beating so hard that it made the guy go crazy? I don't know. And as usual, a secondary mission starts. Defeat 5 minions and a boss. And the reward is just a silver card. Does that mean it'll be easy since the reward is so weak? I'm not sure because this time the crazies brought someone else along. And that's probably the boss. The guy is Kang Seok's brother who's standing there, a bit nuts himself. And obviously the protagonist uses the spying ability on him. The guy stands there, saying it's disgusting. Disgusting is this intelligence stat of yours, my friend. The guy's a total idiot. And from his potential, he's probably going to live under a bridge, right? Besides being a bit slow, at least he's got decent strength. But I think even the perverted psycho at school is better than him. And the bully seems to have heard of Johnson in the tank top. So watch yourself, friend. If you already know the guy's reputation, you should either fear or respect him, right? Just as the protagonist is about to say something, someone interrupts him. It's the brunette trying to lecture the guys, but they don't let her speak. That's when the protagonist decides to step up and help. But on his way, he gets punched, clutching his stomach in pain. The guy says the tank top madman must be a bluff. The brunette is horrified. The noise was brutal. And the funny part is how the guy is holding her like he's sipping tea with his pinky up. But obviously, it's for a different reason, right, folks? The protagonist keeps complaining about his stomach. And when she asks if he's okay, if he's feeling better, the guy is blushing. It seems he activated his card. And out of nowhere, he says it feels great to take a punch to the stomach. The girl and the guys don't understand a thing. In fact, nobody understands. Neither do we. The guy starts saying he's crazy and so on. And then another one goes at him, saying you don't say things like that in front of a lady. But look at her face. I think she liked it. The level we're reaching with this manhwa. Things go from 0 to 100 really fast. And the guy starts pummeling the protagonist. And the guy's taking it calmly until his card reaches 5 stacks. In other words, he's taken 5 hits. And the card says something good is going to happen now. The guy asks him what he thinks of his punches. And this good thing that's going to happen is that one of Johnson's attributes will be randomly boosted. You can only see the protagonist's hand coming because his strength just went from E to C. The protagonist winds up a punch from way back and lands it square on the guy's face. This new card of his is Paradise because every time he gets hit, he becomes stronger. The guy is almost invincible now. He just keeps getting hit. I get the reference. The girl is in shock of the protagonist, and the guys are dumbfounded because I think the protagonist knocked out the guy with just one punch. The guy dropped all limp, and that's when the protagonist says he needs to confess something to the brunette. I thought, is he going to confess now? Has he finally gathered the courage? And the guy says he's happy when he gets hit. Man, what kind of nonsense is this? And the girl says he's crazy but ends up blushing. Looks like we found a new way to win over girls. Just go up to one and say, hey, you feel like beating me up today. And the worst part is in her mind, she starts wanting to hit Johnson. And I have nothing more to say. Even the guy says that if that's what he wants, he'll give it to the protagonist. So he is. My middle school mind is never going away. And the worst part is, comparing the two, this is going to be a pretty cool fight. Actually, now the protagonist has made the X with his tank top. So we've lost. Tank Top Johnson versus Park, Kang Seok's brother. Then all the guys rush in like vultures going after a carcass, because the protagonist knocked out Kang Seok. And Johnson, on instinct, lands a jow on the first one in line. and he starts thinking he needs to run to a narrow spot again. But then he realizes the guys are all in shock, saying this is ridiculous. It makes no sense, because he actually took the guy down with just one jab. Hello, is this the police? There are a bunch of delinquents here, and he claims he was still holding back. This armor is really powerful, isn't it? Why? I don't know. All thanks to the masochism card, of course. And the guys are still in shock when the protagonist calls the brunette, asking her to close her eyes. She's a bit confused, but says there are certain things women shouldn't see. But my dear, that tank top of his looks like it's on backward. It's a real disaster. If secondhand embarrassment could kill, I'd already be buried. Really, huh? And yes, she just told him to shut up. All she needed to add was, and who said I'm a woman? Get it? Out of nowhere, someone starts clapping. It's the big guy saying things are getting interesting. Wow, the guy just saw his brother get taken down with one punch and still thinks it's all cool. Yep, the protagonist mentions the guy's endurance is a C, while the other says he wants to see who's the strongest here. At that moment, the protagonist lands a cross punch on him. But then the situation changes because the guy doesn't even flinch. And why is that? It's actually because the protagonist's strength has dropped back down from a C to an E. This happened because he's gone too long without taking a beating. Yep, folks, it's time for him to get roughed up. The protagonist says he can take it. The guy quickly punches the protagonist in the mouth and then follows up with another one to set his brain straight. The blow was so strong and knocked the protagonist down. And the guy keeps mocking our protagonist, until Johnson asks for a timeout. He requests a timeout to check a card that isn't activating, of course. But the other guy responds that time waits for no one. Did he just drop a truth bomb? He almost deserves a higher intelligence rating for that. Just kidding. When the girl sees this, she runs over to help, but the big guy tells her to wait her turn. End of the line, all right. Then he delivers another punch to the protagonist, even with him asking for a break. That's the little bully. The guy even used the timeout sign. Doesn't he know how to respect the rules? No, the brunette is in despair as always. Then the guy gets scared, because look at the protagonist's little hand coming up. Johnson starts landing solid punches on the guy's face and thanks the brunette, because he's only able to rack up the 5 stacks when trying to defend the girl. Meanwhile, he's consuming the Dragon Ball beans. Out of nowhere, he backtracks, saying he was kidding about protecting her. He was just embarrassed to get beaten up in front of her. And this relates to the card. He needs to get hit and be humiliated. That's why the card has such a weird name. It's truly a masochism card. And out of nowhere, the guy grabs him by the leg, saying he's known for being good at wrestling. For those who don't know, it's a fight involving throws where you grab here and throw there. And when he tries to lift the protagonist, the guy doesn't budge. Of course, Johnson is using overload. And he lands a strike on the guy's back to adjust his posture. Speaking of which, straighten up, folks. I know some of you are slouched over like a fishing hook. The guy is relentless. And with that added weight, plus the masochism card. I misspoke. The protagonist threw a punch at the guy's face. If the brunette doesn't fall in love now, I think she never will. The 2 cards combined gave him an A status in strength and endurance. If he always had this status, it would be totally overpowered. Just like he did with Haju, and he starts doing it with Park, until the guy can't take it anymore. I just didn't understand why the protagonist was so close to the guy. Wow. Actually, I think I get it now. He's showing the guy of his boss, riding on him backward. Now it all makes sense. With the victory, he completes the mission and will earn the silver card. The next day at school, the protagonist is downcast, thinking about the creator of the system and the death of the goat as usual. Suddenly, he gets grazed by a hit, activating a stack. Right away, he turns to the person and asks, "Can you hit the right side too?" What? But the one hitting him is back Charon, calling him useless for doing that and asking why there are rumors that they're dating now. The guy is speechless because he didn't do anything. And others say maybe the rumor that they have 3 kids is also a lie. I admit that rumor was funny too, but I still prefer the idea of the Yakuza beating up the principal. But think with me, who could be spreading these rumors? Who could it be? I don't want to say more than that. It has to be the bully again. The guy again making up a bunch of nonsense. And that makes the girl mad. More blushing. Maybe she actually likes the protagonist now. I don't know anything, but outside the school there he is. You all must remember him. If not, you'll see him shortly. Because everyone is looking at the big guy who lost to the tank top Johnson. The guy making excuses, saying Johnson is a master of deadly moves and whatnot. And that now he's tarnished the name of West Gangbuck. He apologizes for it, but then he arrives. Hand no Jatar. The guy asked if you remembered a while ago. Yeah, I feel trouble brewing soon. He arrives saying no one expected anything from the big guy, and that if he got beaten up now, he'd feel like he was part of the group. So he doesn't even deserve to get hit. Then he asks if it was Johnson who spread those rumors. The guy confirms it was him. So since Johnson spread these lies, he's going to personally fetch the protagonist right now. And here we see his stats. Actually, we only see one of the stats, but it's an S in speed. This guy must be really fast. Back at school, the protagonist is checking out the new silver card he earned. His card is called To the Moon. Could it be that the punch Hand no Jotar will send him to the moon? Hand no Jotar said he'd look for the protagonist at school, but someone called him first and it was Gordolfo, asking why use a sledgehammer to crack a simple nut. I already see where this is going, folks. I always say it's better to have more than less in these situations, Gordolfo. If you try to crack a nut with your teeth, you could end up toothless. Just saying. Consider yourself warned. And yes, he asked to take care of the protagonist alone. Han no Jader himself asks if he knows the guy managed to beat a June, and Gordolfo asks if he still doesn't trust in that, and what he's referring to is his body fat. Could it be that this guy has a secret technique to absorb hits with his body fat? For sure. But even a June liked the idea. He sends the others ahead. I'd say when Gordolfo comes back, it'll be in a coffin, and it'll have to be a big coffin. Playing it well. And back at school, the protagonist is there playing with a card, thinking about how he's going to reach the moon. And the protagonist is still stuck on the mission to recruit 4 members. However, this won't be easy for him. Man, this mission seems harder than the one to beat a June. Suddenly, the protagonist mentions that he needs to buy another slipper because the nail he put in his slipper came loose. What do you mean, buy another slipper? Just get another nail, dude. And guess who showed up right when he bent down to pick up his slipper? The brunette of our protagonist. And yes, he is literally. I don't even need to explain much here. He starts trying to explain himself, but, as always, gets punched in the mouth. He says everything's been going wrong for him lately, but she just responds that she'll see him at the police station. Damn, man. I'm unlucky, but this protagonist managed to beat me in that. The guy can't even grab his slipper without something going wrong. But it wasn't all that bad, thinking about it now. Suddenly, the protagonist feels a chill down his spine, and the reason for it is right behind him, obviously. Yep, Hajun is back at school, folks. Now I'm curious. Does he still want to be a school leader? I don't know. The protagonist, trying to make conversation, asks if Hajun had coffee this morning. And the guy interrupts him, saying they're not close enough to ask that. And that's when the system created another side mission, recruit Gu Hajun. The reward is just a silver card. But as they say, no risk, no reward. Hey, Gu Hajun, do you want to join my Straw Hat crew? And I'll tell you now, the chances of the protagonist getting beat up just went way up. But the guy just ignored him. And that's what he's telling the Yakuza now, saying that spying doesn't work on Gu Hajun. So Yakuza wants to know what spying is, but he changes the subject and the Yakuza throws out there that he can't use that on him. Do I sense trouble? Suddenly, a guy shows up saying that the Eastern Gangbuk gang took their bully. The protagonist just tells him to call the police and starts to say goodbye and get on the bus. The poor guy is left standing there. And I think Gu Hajun saw everything, but the protagonist doesn't care. If only he had a mission to deliver a letter to him, he might consider it. But since he doesn't, he'll just enjoy the ride. Even the bully is enjoying the ride, getting beaten up by 4 or 5 guys. Must be great. And the guys are still mocking him, saying he's following Johnson, the tank top guy. And the guy came out with the phrase, I'll tell you, in a river with piranhas, the alligator swims backward. In this case, Johnson is the alligator. And Gordolfo, hearing that, starts laughing and pulls out an iron pipe. Then the bully starts mocking him, saying he had to bring all these people to still use a weapon against him. But Gordolfo says no, that the weapon is for the guy to hit him with. Are we getting another masochist? Is everyone turning masochistic here now? The bully not being stupid. Hits the guy in the stomach, but does nothing to Gordolfo. But come on, you idiot. Hit the head. I want to see if the guy can handle that. At the very least, he get a bump the size of a belly on his head. And the guys don't waste any time and start kicking the bully. The poor guy gets thrown to the ground, and the guys come at him with a pipe. Take that in the nose. The protagonist actually came to save the bully, saying the guy made him worry. The bully even sheds a few tears. The guys just watch. Johnson takes the chance to spy on the guys, and they're pretty weak except for Gordolfo. Gordolfo is super strong. Check out this guy's stats. The protagonist even asks how strong he is, given his resilience is a plus. Sir Johnson, he's strong enough to take an iron blow to the stomach, but the protagonist says that even so, he still has a chance against the guy. And if you compare their stats, he might be able to win against this big-bellied guy thanks to the cards he has. Then Gordolfo starts taking off his jacket, but I'm curious. For him to take that off alone, it wasn't a jacket. It was a curtain wrapped around the guy. Then he says he's going solo against Johnson. And Johnson starts to get suspicious because these days, villains who go solo for a fight are hard to find. It's true. And the protagonist is slowly losing his cluelessness. It only took Gordolfo opening his mouth to talk nonsense for the protagonist to quickly throw several punches to his stomach. I like it that way, less talking and more punching in the mouth. Or in the stomach, whatever. However, it was more than obvious that if an iron pipe didn't do anything, Johnson's ranky punch wouldn't either. And let me tell you, if you rub that hand on a frying pan right now, you could easily fry an egg, because the amount of oil inside this Gordolfo must be no joke. The protagonist realizes that 2 punches didn't do much and quickly throws about 30 punches in a row, looking like Luffy. So the dude just stands there, taking punches. And when the protagonist realizes that if he doesn't aim for the head, it won't work out for him, Gordolfo throws a punch at him so strong it made my house shake. That's the truth. And the protagonist wasn't finished off by it. This protagonist must be made of air, it can't be possible. In fact, now he activated the weight limit card. Look at his face hugging Gordolfo. Meanwhile, Gordolfo doesn't seem to be too happy about it. And to top it all off, the card fails. Help me out here. Gordolfo grabs the protagonist and slams him to the ground. After this, he's going to need at least 3 pins in his spine. All because the genius forgot he used the card against the bully, and it hadn't been 24 hours yet, as it can only be used once a day. Yeah, honestly, if he's an animal for his lack of memory, what am I then? A seal. The gangsters start mocking the protagonist because he's lying on the ground like trash with the big guy sitting on him. That's a weight-based move. Now it's clear why this guy looks like he's almost giving birth. And now that I think about it, Gordolfo is sitting on top of Johnson. I mean the other Johnson. So he's. And the guy says he'll leave the rest to the others. After a sit-down like that, there's not much left for the boys. And to complete the night's awkward moment, the bully stays on top of the protagonist to protect him. Look at the protagonist's expression. He seems to be enjoying the situation. There's a slight hint of discomfort in the air. Then someone appears with a bat to do what a bat does, right? But just in time, our savior shows up. The boys can hardly believe it. Jun himself has come to the party. Now things are about to get intense, my friend. He arrives asking Johnson if what he said at school was a joke. And of course, it wasn't. With that answer, Jun starts taking off his jacket because now he's part of Johnson's gang. Hold on to that. Never doubted it. And welcome to the silver card pocket. Mission complete. Send it our way already, my girl. But we're not going to use it yet. Stay calm because soon will be the time, folks, because now the fight has just begun. Gordolfo is calling Jun to fight, but he's surprised when Jun says he's not going to fight him. He states that the great tank top Johnson isn't yet adapted for this match, and Johnson only uses the seed of life to recover. And look at the protagonist's expression. It seems this time's going to work out. Did someone put something in his toddy this morning? We'll never know. Gordolfo arrives with a punch to the protagonist's face. I thought, well, there goes the outing. But this is all part of the plan. Folks, relax, everything's fine. Then he takes another and another, until finally 5 stacks. Now things are heating up. With strength from E to C, the punch the protagonist threw actually pushed Gordolfo back. And don't even say it didn't hurt, holding those melons like that. When Gordolfo looks again, and even Jun is surprised because the protagonist is way up, far above the big guy. And that's thanks to the moon card he earned. It makes him jump higher. But Gordolfo is happy because he's already grabbed the protagonist midair before. But this time it's different, folks, because the protagonist is finally taking it seriously. The last card he earned by recruiting Jun was a taekwondo spinning kick. Watch the impressive kick. It landed squarely on the big guy's nose. And best of all, look at the protagonist's triumphant expression. Yeah, big guy, it didn't work out for you. Someone should call a crane to get this guy off the ground because hands won't do it. But literally, no one believed it. And with his magnificent spinning kick performance, the protagonist earned his gold card. And he quickly orders the gold card reveal. Folks, I got chills. What an amazing chapter. From the protagonist's expression, it seems like he's finally waking up to life. Could it be that we finally have an ultra mega powerful protagonist from the galaxies? No. After Johnson asked to reveal the golden card with that psycho look, the mission gave him 2 cards, but he's only allowed to choose one. The other goes straight down the drain. Obviously, Johnson starts freaking out, not knowing which one to choose. I just play a my mom told me and be done with it. Meanwhile, Gordolfo is on the ground, knocked out with his eyes open. I'm not sure if this dirtbag is finished off. When one of the lackeys looks up, there's Jun telling him to grab Gordolfo and leave. So me, Jun, you don't even know if they brought a forklift this time to take the guy. Imagine having to carry Gordolfo in their arms. Someone's going to get back pain, no doubt. And by the way, folks, fix that posture. I'm watching. Back at his house, the protagonist says he's really tired. And out of nowhere, he hears a strange sound. He then finds his sister listening to and dancing to some K-pop. Johnson thinks, what the heck is this? And he goes straight to his room because she starts spouting a bunch of nonsense at him from the other side of the door, asking if he's doing drugs with the school bullies. Next, he goes straight to the cards. He has to choose between a card called Inside the Card, which will literally reveal what card he'll get for each mission from now on, and the Welcome card. This is by far the best Grandmaster card and seems eager to goad him. But to us, it makes no sense. I didn't understand any of it, but apparently, it seems better than the other. At least it's the one that piques our curiosity more. But then you've asked, which card did the protagonist choose? Strangely, none. He went to sleep and hibernated. I mean, after today's fight, I'd probably sleep for 3 days straight too. I wouldn't even get up to eat. That's a lie. Now the second last gangbuck, I think Gordolfo is about to have a heart attack, especially when he sees Han no Jetter coming. The guy already throws himself to the ground, saying he's ready to be beaten. And that's when the little Han appears. I think things have turned sour for Gordolfo now. At school, the protagonist is sucking up to Jun. And I can't even tell in what way because Jun himself is asking what he's doing there in the bathroom staring at his equipment. Just testing you, right, Jun? You know how it is. Dude, are you gay? Then Jun asks if he should go after them alone, but at first it doesn't seem like a good idea. And when Johnson asks if Han no Jetter is going after him, wanting to tease him, Jun replies, pretty annoyed, that he should stay away from that guy. Han no Jetter is no fool. Jun himself has never actually fought him. Just to give you an idea, he only sees him as a huge son of a mother. Yeah, you thought I'd swear, but not this time. And speaking of the guy, he's still there to smack Gordolfo. The chubby guy was even prepared to lose a few teeth in one hit, But Han no Jadar wants information about Johnson first. He says he won't beat Gordolfo up if he tells him everything Johnson did. And you see, that's why Hajun says he's very smart. And he's this smart because he's a master manipulator. Gordolfo gives a half-hearted answer and immediately takes a punch to the stomach. And yes, he left his face in bad shape with a single blow. This guy's a beast. If the protagonist had seen this, he'd just say we lost, you get it? And why do I say he's a beast? It's because one more of his stats is now on display. He has an A+ in intelligence, folks. This guy must be exceptional, no doubt about it. I have no idea how the protagonist is going to beat this guy. And by the way, he's at school with the guards bowing to him. As always, he doesn't want a fuss. Meanwhile, the Yakuza is there, acting like the boss. The Yakuza had been kind of absent lately. I hope he starts showing up more. By the way, the protagonist's nickname was updated after he defeated Gordolfo. Now he's called Tank Top Johnson, the extra character ear. While explaining things on the board, he starts deciding which card to choose. However, as he makes these moves with the card, others think he's just miming since they can't see the cards he's looking at. So it makes sense they're all paranoid. Out of the two cards, he decides to choose the welcome card, the one that will come to him. But suddenly, the guys get worried because the protagonist is frozen, like Chave's famous freeze frame. For the protagonist, everyone disappears. He starts running around looking for them, but doesn't find anyone until he gets outside the school. And what he sees is literally hallucinatory. Don't worry, you didn't get that wrong. It really is hallucinatory. The whole thing makes no sense. There's a giant card talking to him, the Grand Master card. It says it will clarify all his questions. Man, I need some answers to because I'm more confused than the protagonist right now. The guy is in shock asking questions. Suddenly, Johnson hears the voice of another person in the card saying he's a lucky kid for already getting a welcome card. Look, to me, he'd be a lucky kid if he had a card to boost his tool, right? This makes the protagonist think there must be other people doing missions too, not just him. Then the MasterCard mentions he doesn't need to know that info at the moment and that even though he has lots of questions, it doesn't trust him enough to answer them yet. Is this card mocking him? It said it would answer everything and now it's dodging questions. This is the first time I've seen a card dodging questions. The card says that if he unites all of Gangbuk, it may trust him more. The protagonist starts complaining and the card gives him some hard truths, saying that his vision has improved, he's taller, and he's freed himself from bullying. And that was just from the gold cards. He's satisfied with just that. There are still diamond cards, master cards, and grand master cards. Imagine the abilities that could come with those. The guys were all worried, thinking he had been finished off, except for the Yakuza. The Yakuza wants them to set up matching uniforms to wear, but for the protagonist, that's enough. He just wants to go home today. But before leaving, he calls the bully over and says he's going to unite all of Gangbuk. In the bully's mind, that already gives him the authority to spread that news everywhere. I think I'll change his nickname to Gossip Guy now. What do you all think? When the protagonist leaves school, he sees a couple, and suddenly the girl starts hitting the guy. That's thanks to our protagonist's spying ability, and he uses this spying ability to even level up the card. And now I ask you, is there anyone better to test this card on than our brunette back Charon? I totally ship this pair seriously, but now he sees something different. The way the stats are displayed has changed, now also showing weight and height. He also sees her all blushing. By the way, this girl literally weighs like a sack of cement. I just hope he doesn't let her know he's aware of that, or things will go south for Johnson. And it's in this alley that our protagonist is analyzing his cards. Am I the only one who feels like this is going to be trouble? What is he doing in an alley? Anyway, so he's thinking about which cards to combine since he needs stronger ones now. Not that he knows Douglas or Han no Jatar. So he even says out loud that he has to avoid Han no Jatar as much as possible. And guess who was right in front of him, hearing everything he just said? The guy arrives with a kick that leaves him breathless right on the spot. He starts taking off his jacket, asking if he's not going to fight back, and the protagonist uses the recovery seed to run faster when the guy attacks. But this is the end of the line. Han no Jatar just wants to know how he defeated Gordolfo being so weak. Then the protagonist says, spy. The guy doesn't get it because it makes no sense. But check out the monster's stats, my friend. 1.81 meters tall, 68 kilograms, 3 A's and 2 S's, and one of them is an S+. There's no way this guy is smart, good-looking, and strong. He must have some flaw. At the very least, the tool. It has to be a small tool. If it's not, life's really unfair. If the guy doesn't have a small tool, we're done for. And check out the protagonist's appearance next to this guy. Anemic, all bruised up, 3 screws in his spine, busted knees, and still with 7 kids to take care of. And it was at this moment that the system created a side mission. Fight Han no Jatar and win. If successful, he'll receive a platinum card. There are also secret conditions to be met. But to beat this trickster, forget it. The protagonist approaches the guy and asks to set a day to fight, since if they fight now, no one will see it, and there will be no proof afterward. Actually, yes, Johnson. We're here, you can fight. We're watching everything. And would you believe it? The guy agrees. The protagonist says he'll personally set up the match, and Han no Jatar bids him farewell, to see you next time. Yeah, my protagonist, this time you got away. But suddenly, out of nowhere, the protagonist uses the To the Moon card. Yes, folks. He's found his courage and is coming down from above to attack the guy from behind. Look at that cruelty. If he doesn't finish him now, he won't get another chance. It'll have to be a direct hit. So he adds extra strength along with his taekwondo kick. But the guy, still with his back turned, dodges the protagonist's attack. Yep, folks. Things are about to get complicated now, my friend. The guy comes at him, and now it's his turn. He sends a spinning taekwondo kick to the protagonist's face, who instantly loses consciousness. Hando Jaitar says his footwork is weak, but the technique isn't too shabby, and the protagonist is there, lying on the ground, totally destroyed. He failed the side mission. However, he achieved that secret condition. First loss to a strong enemy. He'd received the card while still lying on the ground. And he got a diamond card, folks. Damn man. If he had won, he would have gotten a platinum card. Losing, he got a diamond card. The guy assigning these missions deserves a round of applause, right? Kudos to you. But I hope this card is really good because otherwise it'll be impossible to beat this maniac. When the protagonist starts to wake up, he already finds the gossip guy patting his face. What's with this nonsense, man? The protagonist wakes up like Rapunzel, saying Han no Jatar pulled a sneak attack. Now the guy did a sneak attack for sure. Who came to surprise him, huh? I'm telling you, he deserved that beating. Good thing the gossip guy found him lying in the alley and brought him back to school. Otherwise, he'd still be lying there. And the protagonist admits it. He was totally defeated. He's a failure. But why was he able to beat Gordgolfo and get crushed by Han no Jatar? Maybe strength in the stats isn't what we think, huh? And suddenly someone comments that he's really lucky. And it's none other than Hajun. Now I ask you, what does Hajun want with him? The guy's always showing up wherever the protagonist is. And since the protagonist isn't a fool, he immediately uses his spying skill on him. And this guy's strong too, right? 1.86 meters tall, 83 kilograms. Check out the guy's stats. A fight between Han no Jatar and Hajun would be interesting to watch. It'd be 2 hours of intense brawling. But now the protagonist wonders if he should take a bus or buy a guava. Buy a bus and grab a guava. See you next time. Folks, don't ask me unnecessary questions. It was better to see this dialogue in this way than in the embarrassing way the protagonist always does. Trust me. The protagonist tells the gossip guy to leave the room because he wants to check out the new card he got. And it's a diamond card. But he won't always take a beating and get a good card, right, folks? We don't even know if he'll get a card every time he loses. So it's not always wise to rely on luck. But since he got it, let's make good use of this thing too. Reveal card, this time it's Save to the Cloud. It's a summoning card, but what it does is still a mystery. Hopefully, it won't summon the devil. Otherwise, it can do whatever. So in Han no Jatar's Gangbuck, everyone is praising him. But he says it wasn't that hard. Yeah, we really have to agree with him. Then he tells the guy to go conquer Johnson's school, but he asks the blonde to take him along since Hajun is there. And this that Han no Jatar is talking about is this guy Park Gun here. This guy must be pretty crazy. He was even taking some meds. And he sends them to Johnson's school because now he's going to personally take over the South School, Douglas's school. Finally, he plans to conquer the North School, which has a monster, folks. The guy must be huge. Back at the protagonist's house, his sister is begging him to stay in his room. But look at his expression as if he's really going to listen. The poor girl keeps begging, saying she'll do anything if he doesn't leave the room. Soki says he's going out in just his underwear now since she's asking so much. I really got it, huh? And once again, she's yelling at him from outside the door. But what matters now is the card, right, folks? Not Johnson showing off his tool. And since he's in a completely safe place, his own home, he starts using his card. The whole room lights up and things get chaotic until the copy cloud is successfully summoned. Yes, it's a copy cloud. So his sister goes to answer the door because her friends have arrived with a packed lunch, folks. They came with food in hand to visit. They've already scored points with me, so feel free to come on in. And the girl came to help the protagonist's sister with Tigo Tigo. Do you remember that she was dancing the K-pop earlier? Exactly. So she asks if the extra character Eater is home. The sister immediately gets embarrassed, not wanting to show her friends Johnson. Meanwhile, the other friend has her eye on the bedroom door. You're interested, huh, girl? We're noticing this interest. And there's Johnson in the room, desperate because the cloud is talking to him. And the cloud says that the moment it's activated, it will automatically copy. So he quickly activates the card just as his sister enters the room, saying that her friends want his autograph. You can imagine the mess this will cause. And she sees the cloud. The cloud even grabs her to make a copy. It was too good to be true, right, folks? There's bound to be that famous fan service moment now. Honestly, I wanted to see some action instead of fan service, but if there's no rat, you hunt the skunk. You can't always have it all. Afterward, the girl is released after being copied. Then Johnson asks his sister if she's okay. The protagonist wants to know how she's feeling if she saw the cloud. And she says it's like something grabbed her. Maybe there are ghosts in this house, bro. All right, now we're safe. She didn't see anything. In fact, she went to the living room to tell her friends who just laughed at her. Well done. And the protagonist in his room staying quiet, holding the cloud, wondering if it went wrong or not. Suddenly, the system alerts him that he can pace his sister. And he immediately tests it, because here we test everything, my friend. And check out this magic here. The protagonist, unexpectedly, starts to freak out because the cloud literally copied his sister. To be sure he wasn't losing it, Johnson goes to see if his sister is actually in the living room, and she is. But she's also now right behind him. The only differences between his sister's copy and the real one are this mark on the neck and the fact that she isn't yelling at the protagonist. The rest is practically identical. And Johnson, out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, sticks his finger up her nose and just stares at his finger. That was kind of gross, right? Then suddenly the copy slaps him across the face, feeling offended. Copies have feelings too. And that slap, in turn, immediately triggered his masochism. Hit the other side too, please. So and the copy, on her own, decides to return to the card. And that's the power of the diamond card. Now, how will the protagonist use this? The truth is, we still don't know. At school, Johnson is feeling down because he expected more from this diamond card. Having two sisters now will only make him twice as annoyed. I don't see any advantage in this. In the end, that card was just a trick. Suddenly, his boss shows up, almost finishing off our protagonist with a scare. Our eyebrowless gossip comes to warn him that East Gangbuck has started moving. They immediately sent the school's two best, Park Gun with his remedies and Kang with the big hair. And if they come now, their school doesn't stand a chance at the moment. The protagonist starts to worry, knowing that with only 3 attack cards, if those guys show up, he'll be crushed. So what will he do to get stronger? At that moment, someone calls him. It's Hajun, asking what he's doing there since he doesn't even smoke, and this is his smoking area. So the protagonist seizes the opportunity to ask Hajun to train him, but of course, Hajun simply refuses. And that's when the protagonist has an idea. If Hajun won't do it, he has no choice. And in a random house, Kang with the big hairstyle came to pick up Park Gun with his remedies. In no time, he convinces the maniac to go with him, and they decide to head to the school right then. Well, folks, I think things are about to go down where the school is. I get the reference. And on the school's ground floor, so if Hajun and Johnson are on the rooftop, Johnson lands a jab on Hajun's face, landing it perfectly and increasing his punching mastery. But why is the protagonist so happy to hit Hajun? Of course, it's because this is a copy of Hajun. It's not the real Hajun. He wouldn't take a punch so easily. But even as a copy, he maintains the stats. Couldn't he send the copy to fight his enemies? Imagine making 3 copies of Hajun and sending them after those guys. They wouldn't stand a chance. And Johnson says the cloud can block punches. I'd just like to know what Hajun thought when he was caught by the cloud. Doesn't he want to finish off our protagonist now? Now that he has a puppet at his disposal to improve his techniques, he can boost his mastery as much as he wants. He's there, punching, kicking, raising his mastery like crazy. And that's when he hears a sound. The sound of you hitting the like button. Well, it wasn't exactly that sound, but I also want to hear that sound, okay? No, but it was the sound of the strength stat going up to level D, folks. Look at the joy on the boy's face. The problem is that the guys are already arriving. If they'd taken longer to get here, he could have significantly improved his technique by trading punches with the fake Hajun. Now I'm curious to see what his status will be when the guys arrive to see if it'll be a good fight. And this time, we're already at the protagonist's school, where Johnson's sister's friends are chatting casually. And I'm already shipping one of them with the protagonist, right? It's the one who was watching Johnson's door. We see you, sneaky. The problem is who's watching them, right, folks? I think things are going south now. The guy said he wants Hajun and Johnson, but I think when he sees Hajun, he'll end up regretting it. But now he says he's going to have some fun. Let's see him have fun after the protagonist puts him 7 feet under. And in the school courtyard are the 3 musketeers, Yakuza, Johnson, and Gossiper. And Mr. No Eyebrows is saying Johnson seems different today. He's looking like a mix of Ben 10 and something scary. The guy even says his energy feels different, asking if he's been training or something like that. My friend, you aimed at the turtle and hit the nail on the head, didn't you? And the protagonist says he feels like breaking a lamppost today for no reason. This protagonist seems different, right? Could today be the day, clan? And that's when some frantic guy came running in, saying that those guys have arrived. Yeah, folks, I think today's the day. The guy says they're harassing some students, and the protagonist starts thinking about whether it's worth helping them, since that's how he is. Until the guy says the lunatics are messing with the girls from our school. So the situation is more complicated, right? Those lunatics are going to have dinner in hell today. And as they're heading out, look who shows up in front of them. Gordolfo's back for another beating, folks. He's a regular, right? VIP client will have to start giving this guy a discount. The guy's there worried, asking why he's there. Obviously, it's to restore his pride. The guy got being a fool of his own school, and now everyone else is already saying they're going to help the protagonist. But he tells them to stay in front because he'll handle the problem here. So Gordolfo starts wondering if he's gone crazy, thinking that if Hajun hadn't distracted him that time, he never would have lost. Gordolfo even asks if Hajun is hiding nearby. He is. He's perched up on a pole. Don't you see him? The guy is like Spider-Man. He's toned and intense. And of course, the protagonist says that Hajun won't be coming. Gordolfo is surprised again because the protagonist says that he alone is enough to deal with Gordolfo. I think the protagonist has gone insane. Meanwhile, nearby in an alley in front of the school, some guys are bothering girls, saying they'll give them money. And when they get closer, they finally see the girl's face clearly. Then the guy is captivated by her, saying she could be an idol or something like that. Whoa, this is the girl of my dreams. Luckily, the gossip guy showed up just in time, and the guys recognize him. but they don't understand how he knew they were there. Now the one who's impressed is the eyebrowless guy because, wow, look how many dudes are here. It's like 5 against 1. This is a gang-up. Call the police, man. That they keep mocking him until one of them takes a makeshift defensive stance and right after, they freeze. And it's not because they found out the guy has no eyebrows, alright? It's because one of the monsters has arrived, folks. The guy who fought for 4 days and nights with Johnson for the #1 spot at school. Huh? What? It's the Yakuza? No. We're done for. Wait. Let me get back in character. The #2 of Gangbuck, Diablo, Yakuza. We're safe now, folks. The girls all get excited, saying that with a name like that, the guy must be good at fighting. So I ask you, why does he have that reputation? Huh, folks? The guy doesn't even feel embarrassed spreading lies. And the worst part is he believes his own lie, thinking Yakuza is a skilled fighter. But look at Yakuza's expression. We're in trouble now. And the crazy guy gives him a thumbs up, which only motivates Yakuza more. The guys are like, wow, he didn't even take his hand out of his pocket to come meet us. This guy really trusts his fighting skills. So they decide to attack all at once. We're finished. And out of nowhere, they stop. Because look who just showed up, folks. With a red hand still and he's smacking one out, isn't he, you rascal? And he says the guy was stronger than he expected. He's learned to be Ben 10 now. Look at how he left Gordolfo all messed up on the ground. Yeah, man, show some respect to our protagonist from now on, or it'll just be jabs to the nose. He immediately swaps places with Yakuza, and Yakuza says he left some fun for him. Come on, Yakuza, you left all the fun. You didn't do anything. The guy's a miser. And Kang, the long-haired one, comments that he's stronger than Gordolfo. And indeed, looking at his stats, he seems to be stronger. But instead of going into the fight himself, he sends his underlings. Don't want to mess up your hair, huh? No. And everyone charges at Johnson. He's improved his cards so much that they now have critical damage attributes. Johnson simply hits the guys with full force. And guess who's all excited watching this? Yep, folks, I think we got her, huh? And here we get a new mission. Beat the long-haired guy. But it only grants his silver card. So I think it'll be easy, right, folks? The long-haired guy starts backing off, realizing he'll be beaten in the fight. The protagonist says he doesn't want the underlings and says, just bring hand no Javtar here. The protagonist has gone mad now. That's what I like to see. Here we speak through droptics, folks. And I'm bringing another one because these extras have all been defeated. Today I'm having frog for dinner. Then one of the good-looking guys sneaks up from behind. But he narrowly escaped being finished off. Look, he's a good fighter. What power in that man. But there was one person there who didn't consider him a good fighter. But the question that won't go away is, what level is the protagonist at now? Big Hair says he's at the same level as Gordolfo, because that's what Gordolfo told him, that he'd only lose if he let his guard down against Johnson. And I hate to break it to you, my friend, but you fell for Mario Game's trick. The protagonist throws a spinning kick that at the very least will leave the guy unable to move his jaw for 3 months, sipping through a straw, you know. He'll have to ask someone to choose food for him now. And do you think it's over? Yes. Look at the protagonist coming down from above. Using the additional weight card too. The hit was so strong it even boosted the power of the blow. If this guy isn't finished now and he's immortal, no way. Yakuza and No Eyebrows are celebrating because the guy's going to need an ambulance to get home now. And the protagonist thinks this is the first time he's used his fists in front of some ladies. Wow, protagonist, don't say it like that. You'll win us over too. The girls, I don't even need to say, are already dragging the youngest one away against her will. He got lucky in this situation, and as they're walking away, someone calls out to him. And wouldn't you know, it's the girl asking for his number. We finally won everyone. But now comes that dreaded question. The masochistic brunette or this young one here? Which one are you rooting for? Comment with your thoughts. Now I'm curious. The girls are worried, asking if she doesn't know the rumors about him that he kidnaps girls, but she says she just wants to thank him properly. We've hit the jackpot, haven't we? And just when the protagonist was about to give her his number, a guy starts talking, saying they should laugh while they can't because soon they'll be screwed. I just want to know how this guy is still alive. He just got run over by the protagonist. And Yakuza, to scrape a bit of the fame, goes over and steps on him, asking what he's talking about. Then the guy says that number 5, John Park, will soon arrive and he'll take down Hajun. But I don't think it'll be that easy, right, folks? Hajun immediately tells him to leave because he wants to train now. And check out the guy's muscles. The guy says Han no Jotar sent him there to crush Hajun since Hajun lost to Johnson. Then he says the next one he's going to take down is, but before he can even finish talking, Hajun quickly goes after him. This is the famous saying that the dog who barks doesn't bite. What? Wait, it's actually the dog who barks a lot doesn't bite. His stats weren't bad, but against our massive beast, Hajun, you're a long way from home, my friend. And since he needed an excuse to stay close to Johnson, he sent the little barker to inform Han no Jotar that he's now part of Johnson's tank top crew. And over at Soa's apartment, she's reading a little book while talking to her mom. Her mom says goodbye. This girl's name is Yang Soha, 17 years old. And it wasn't this gentle book she was reading, folks. She was actually reading something about prison behind this book here. So from what I understand, she's another masochist. Folks, does the protagonist have a knack for attracting masochistic girls or what? No way. And speaking of the protagonist, he's over at his building thinking about how he'll recruit the last person. Then he has the brilliant idea to summon the cloud, but he ends up summoning it right onto his lap. Do I even need to say anything? These authors are all perverts. They root for incest, no doubt. But the protagonist's idea now is to recruit the cloud to his crew, and she accepts since she has no choice. Because whatever the protagonist commands, she does. And so he just completed his mission and got the gold card on the crew, which from what I understand is a card that allows him to upgrade his crew members. My goodness, things are starting to get pretty intense, aren't they? His crew is already doing well. Imagine if they get an upgrade, right? Because we have the Mighty the June in the crew, the incredible Yakuza, the legend, and the eccentric no eyebrows. Plus now we have the cloud, of course. And he can upgrade the crew members right now. I just want to know what the protagonist's new status is, please. Show us, author, or else I'm going to have an anxiety attack, right? Are you trying to kill me with anxiety? Our protagonist managed to form his team, but to strengthen his companions, he needs nutrition cards, folks. Upgrade cards in this case, and he only gets these cards by completing upgrade missions. But he still has a little silver card to reveal. Are you the card that boosts his tool? No. And when he reveals it, it's a boxing card called Weaving. Not this time, folks, the tool boosting card still hasn't appeared. And this card is none other than a boxing dodge. He moves his head up and down side to side. This is going to be pretty OP, isn't it? And of course, he gets a side mission. He has to dodge and then land an uppercut. With that, he'll earn a gold card. It's a boxing combo, isn't it, folks? But he doesn't yet add the uppercut card. So he'll have to use his fusion card, the card master. He has a few cards he doesn't use for anything, and he starts combining them. But of the 2 cards that came out, none were the tool boosting card, folks. And they weren't good cards either. With this fusion card, he can also break cards, but that's a gamble he shouldn't make. But try telling that to our crazy-headed protagonist. It's like talking to a wall. And as always, the guys are bowing to them because the 2 showed their true strength yesterday. Well, kind of. Yakuza keeps telling the guys to make sure he doesn't have to come next time. This guy is a comedian. But why the celebration here? It's because the areas controlled by the guy they defeated are under their control now. But Johnson himself says that if he goes there now, Han no Jotar will definitely come after him 100%. And it's not that easy to catch a frog in its own pond. But the browless guy says he'll have free time now since he contacted Douglas from Gangbot Man. As usual, he gossiped a bit with Douglas. And Han no Jotar at his school just found out the guy's lost. One of his henchmen says the schools were taken over by them. And what should they do now? Of course, Han no Jotar wants to go there immediately. But suddenly, a guy comes running, shouting that Gangbot Nan has started moving. They probably know they're at war and will take advantage of this moment. Of course, all of this was part of Browless Guy's plan. I mean, Browless. He informed Douglas' school that everyone was at war and that he should take advantage of this now. Han no Jotar quickly sends the number 2 at his school to Gangbuk Seo. Because in his mind, Johnson is just a weakling. He can always take him down whenever he wants. So now he has to get that son of a gun Douglas first. Keep thinking Johnson is weak. After you lose all your men and are left alone, there'll be no use crying. It's true. Browless Guy is there asking Johnson to praise him for the good job he did. But Johnson can only think about how to beat Han no Jotar now. Browless Guy even asks if he wants something like strengthening the organization from within. But he's not looking for another bodyguard. He wants something different. And then some girls pass by saying the rumors are that he doesn't even flush the toilet alone anymore. And I don't blame anyone for saying that, do I? Look at how many henchmen he has walking around with him lately. But he needs to keep an eye on the commanders of each school that just took over. Because since they were Topatuto's subordinates, they'll probably rebel against Johnson and side with Han no Jotar. So it'd be good if he showed up there and calmed those guys down. And it's at this moment that a personal nutrition mission appears. Talking about nutrition is weird. It sounds like he'll need to eat now, but it's to nourish his status. And this mission is to discipline the school and bring the guys over to his side. The rewards are several status nutrition cards. Folks, hold on, I see Yakuza becoming monstrous. Huh. The guy already thinks he's a big deal. Imagine Yakuza punching someone and knocking them out. His ego will skyrocket. He's already got the tough guy pose down. Now he just needs to be a fighter. And of course, the protagonist wants those cards. He's all happy saying they're going to the schools right now, but No Eyebrows suddenly tells him to look ahead. Because Masoka's number 2, Soha, is right in front of him. He asks what she's doing there and the wild guy there. Meanwhile, No Eyebrows is starry-eyed about the situation. The girl tells him she has plans with Daehyun today since they're friends and go to the same school. The protagonist just says everything's fine, have fun then. And out of nowhere, she calls him again, asking why he didn't reply to her message. She mentions that she sent him a message, but he didn't respond. Look at No Eyebrows' face. Oh, bad boy, you're total trash, aren't you? The guy teasing the protagonist is hilarious. And the protagonist says it's all good that he'll respond to her. So see you later. Damn protagonist. I'm liking what I see. Unlike guys who become lapdogs, the protagonist is making the girls chase after him. And the poor girl is standing there, all happy that she got to talk to him today. And guess who was watching all this? Saying, look at that loser Johnson. I don't have anything, do I? Pretty soon, we'll have a showdown of sadistic beauties fighting for one protagonist. And suddenly, we cut to a group eating and drinking, wondering what they should do, if they should follow Johnson or what. And out of nowhere, one of them asks if they can't shut up. This guy is the school's number one, Jiang Jinsu. He says they'll stick with hand no jitar to the end. If Johnson shows up, he'll finish him off. But not with those stats, right, my dear? All porky. Speaking of stats, I really want to see the protagonist's stats. It's been ages since they showed that stuff, and I'm dying of curiosity. And suddenly, someone says he should go after Johnson if he wants to be finished like that. The guy starts saying it's a joke. And it's actually Johnson who showed up, asking what they're doing on a mountain. And probably the one who said those things earlier was no eyebrows. I need to stop smoking, are you crazy? And suddenly, the wild guy tries to hit the protagonist. He uses his wave recklessly and look at the protagonist's face, like he's about to pop a wheelie on a motorcycle. And the one who gets annoyed with this guy is no eyebrows, saying he's even more cowardly than Johnson himself. No one can be more cowardly than Johnson himself. And suddenly, the protagonist throws an uppercut. But how does he have an uppercut if he didn't have one before? I don't know. It's because he got one last night, right, folks? After making countless combinations, breaking almost all of his cards, even that high-ranking card he had went out the window. But now he's going to get a gold card as a reward. And it's punches to the left, punches to the right. This is thanks to his new boxing gold card, Dempsey Roll. This lets him strike while dodging, making it harder to be hit and causing way more damage with body rotation. Mike Tyson used this a lot, right, folks? And this leaves everyone there speechless. The protagonist tells his friends to wait for him because he's going to get Daddy's card. I didn't fully understand this part. I think it's a reference to those nutrition things. Or is it those kids who grab their dad's card to buy gems and games? Our protagonist throwing punches at the guy, right, folks? And striking a real alpha pose, of course. Since nobody's crazy, they all surrendered. And that's how he managed to discipline the first school literally through fists. Who said hitting doesn't teach? Your mom. Just kidding, folks. Don't go around hitting people, you misers. That'll be my fault. And quickly, the folks from School 2 surrendered too, because they were tired of hand no jatter's tyranny. School 3 also surrendered, but they did it while begging not to have their dues raised. But of course, our protagonist doesn't want money, folks. This makes him the savior of these schools now. And now, yes, everyone. Now the mission is complete. You can throw all those nutrition cards here to Daddy, and our Yakuza is going to become monstrous. The protagonist, when he arrived at the school, even thought of boosting a June to make him an absolute monster. But how could he control a guy like that in the future? It's impossible. The guy's already incredibly strong. Imagine if he got even stronger. Of course, the best choice is really Yakuza, the trembling one. And he quickly applies all the nutrition cards to Yakuza. This is what it means to be a friend, right, folks? But Yakuza ended up having a strange reaction. Could it be that Johnson used the tool-boosting card on Yakuza? No, impossible. We're friends, but we're talking about the most important card. Nobody would just give that card away like that. The protagonist's concern now is finding out who the leader of Gang What Nan is, their number one. And for the first time ever, the gossip guy doesn't have that information. Because when someone becomes the leader of an area, there should be some background, some information about the guy. But the only thing known about this guy is that he's extremely strong. I'm really hoping it's just some gossip from their side spreading that around. Because I believe they think Johnson is like that too, you know? The amount of stuff this guy spreads is insane. And browless guy, upon leaving, starts thinking that everything is calm now. But he knows Johnson can't handle things inside and outside the school simultaneously. He needs someone to handle things for him here while he's out there beating others in a fight. But who would be fit for that, folks? Of course, it's the protagonist, Brunette. So guess who just had an idea involving Baek Charon? You two need to go on a date. What do we think about going to Pooh Villa? That's a terrible idea you've got in your head, you unlucky guy. I'm going to tell my mom and you'll see. The girl gets furious, saying they're not that close. And the worst part is that even the protagonist doesn't know what this Pooh Villa is. And browless guy explains it's a popular place where girls take photos in bikinis at the pools and post on Instagram to gain followers. Now it's clear why she slapped you. Johnson himself says he deserved that slap, and while the guy was sulking, someone sneaks up behind him. And it's none other than El Diablo Yakuza, asking why he was left out of this conversation. Could it be that Yakuza changed after improving his personal stats? I admit I'm already excited to see this guy throwing punches, right? And remember the brunette who didn't want to go to the pool? She didn't want her friends coming to her job, saying it'd be fun to use the boys to get followers by the pool. See, folks, it's these types who keep tormenting us, mere mortal warriors. And after the girls kept insisting, she agreed to go. We get it, folks. Soon we'll have Sunders in bikinis. Now check out the guy's style. Yakuza even came in a suit to go to the pool, and he only wants to know why the June came along. And it's because Johnson here said he only invited him out of politeness. Nobody expected him to actually come, and there are the girls. This manhwa artist really has a knack for drawing characters, doesn't he? I'll tell you folks. And out of nowhere, the protagonist starts looking at Baek Charon's bag. Then she suddenly comes over and slaps him. What healthy relationship, huh? I like it. And that's a truth, Sundir. Soon as she notices him looking at the ground, she'll slap him again. And not far from there, in an area known as the Babel Zone, a guy comes running in a hurry to give a warning to Kang Seok. This guy is the #1 of Gangbuk Man in the north. He tells the guy that Gangbuk CEO Johnson's side is on the move. The guy just says he thought Johnson had a brain. It looks like Johnson's people are already inside their territory. Now I get why the June came along. At the very least, he must have noticed that this territory belongs to that guy. But the question that won't go away now is, does the protagonist, with all this strength, or Hajun himself, monstrous as he is, stand a chance against this Megazord? Because look at those veins bulging from the guy's arm. I think we lost, right, folks? Cancel the pool, cancel the bikinis, let's go home because now I've got a stomachache. And I was just about to ask you all. Help spread our work. Share it in your grandma's WhatsApp group, tell her to come give me her blessing or something like that. Send it to the neighbor's dog, I don't know. Any help is welcome. And we're back to where the sadistic girls in bikinis are going to show up, right, folks? The guys are all excited about this meetup. I just don't understand why Yakuza is all flustered because Arjun is looking at him. Is he Yakuza's girl, maybe? He's already playing hard to get. Now he just needs to go all the way. It's true. The girls start planning to split off from the boys. But why is our protagonist following them? I don't know. Obviously, he gets hit for it. He gets hit and even likes it. No Eyebrows tells them to hurry up because time's short. They'll be staying for 2 days and 1 night. The guys will sleep there. I thought it would be like a water park. So a lot's going to go down in this pool dormitory, including, as we can see, a lot of fighting, folks. And this here is probably the crew that'll start getting crushed. We can't start straight with dessert. We have to ease into it. As you know, extras are strange beings. They go looking for places to get beaten up. They could just leave, but they insist on taking a beating. It's impressive. And since our protagonist is generous, he decided to give them this gift. Already in the pool, the girls are just taking photos to post on social media, and it seems they've taken about 30,000 photos just to pick one. What's that about? I think this is something unique to women because when men take photos, even if our eyes are closed, we'll post it. We're daring, no doubt. Suddenly, they start commenting on Ajun's physique, saying they'd even go on a date with him if he were friendlier. But you must be wondering, where are the sadistic girls in bikinis? And where's the protagonist brunette? Here she is, and I really don't know what to say. Johnson is one lucky guy, we have to admit. Her friends were left speechless, especially since they expected everyone to come in bikinis. They had messaged Bake, telling her not to come in a bikini anymore, and that's when our bikini saddest ran off, not knowing where to hide her face. Instead of seizing the moment to make a video for social media, right folks? Not this time. The boys are here, ready, asking her to show the bikini. Yes, you heard that right. Actually, that's what she thinks because when she asks Johnson, he says that's not it. But if she wants to show it, they're ready. No one's going to say no. Conversation goes on, and the brunette starts saying the environment is getting boring and maybe she should go home. You say that right next to the most eccentric guy in school. No Eyebrows immediately suggests a game, and whoever loses has to shave an eyebrow. Hey, I'd like to see who's going to say they're bored now. The guy even asks if she wants an easy game, but she replies that she just doesn't want anything boring. And 5 minutes later, she's arguing with Johnson, bickering and claiming that he lost. And he doesn't back down, asserting that she lost too. It's looking like a couple's quarrel, isn't it? I wouldn't know. After some analysis, No Eyebrows decides who the loser will be. Even the girls noticed the mischief because when No Eyebrows said no one lost, back Charon was almost about to shave Johnson's eyebrow. That's when the guy suggested another game. She gets curious to know what it is. This game, my friends, takes place in this closet. I think the dirty-minded ones know what's coming. They'll have to go into the closet, and whoever comes out first loses. The loser has to imitate the handsome No Eyebrows by shaving their eyebrow too. But just staying in there will be easy. It's just a patience test. No, they'll have to hold hands in there. Whoever lets go or leaves first loses. Both open their mouths to complain, and No Eyebrows warns that if they want, they can shave their eyebrow right then, and the game's over. If that's what they want, damn, No Eyebrows, you got done yourself. Her friends comment that if she doesn't feel anything for him, holding his hand should be easy. Now that's what I call friends. Those are my kind of people, folks. The situation is heating up, and here I am, throwing more fuel on the fire. The girl gets irritated, calls Johnson, grabs his hand, and tells him to prepare to shave his eyebrows. Hey, now this is getting interesting. Wouldn't it be a shame if the chapter ended right now? Just teasing you all? No, it's not ending yet. Calm down. My heart even skipped a beat. The two of them enter the closet, and the guy locks them in. Good luck, Johnson, because things are about to get intense. And let's be honest, browless guy is smarter than we expected. Now we understand his intelligence stat. This guy's a genius, he's gone up in my book. However, someone not too interested in this little game is Yakuza, who suddenly notices that Johnson has grown a lot and is getting very strong. He chuckles and comments that he's jealous. Could he actually know about the system? That theory that he had the system himself has never felt as likely as it does now. Too bad he mentioned this right in front of that crowd at Extras. And instantly they recognize him. Diablo Yakuza. Could it be that Yakuza will finally take down some extras? Is this what I'm seeing? Meanwhile, in the closet, they're stuck in there with no Wi-Fi signal. Her question now is, why is Johnson sweating so much? He says he thinks he saw this exact situation in a show once. the same scenario as theirs. Suddenly, the system creates a mission. He takes a deep breath and she gets startled, asking what's wrong with him. The two are very close with our protagonist right in front of the goal. If the referee hadn't blown the whistle, I think he would have kicked it. The referee this time was the system, telling him to get out of the closet, letting back Charon win the game. Okay, losing the game isn't a big deal, but the system wants Johnson to come out of the closet. Are you losing it, system? Though things are getting steamy inside this closet and we have to choose between the sassy brunette or the silver card. Logically, I know everyone would pick the brunette, but if the silver card is the legendary tool boosting card, we can't risk passing it up, right? Imagine living with the regret of discarding the tool boosting card. No way. The brunette just asks him to stop looking at her, and he responds that he can't, as it's pretty cramped in there. There's not much else to look at. Of course, there are other reasons too. You know that I know that you know. We're all aware. Don't try to fool us, Johnson. She asks if he could at least try not to look. And suddenly, the protagonist asks if she's sick, as her forehead is sweating a lot. She tells him to shut up as always. But in the end, she even asks if they could let go of each other's hands. The protagonist, who isn't dumb and wants to keep holding hands, says rules are rules. She gets irritated, asking if he could just leave the closet. But of course, he doesn't want to end up like the eyebrow-less gossip guy. She says that if that's the problem, she'll draw his eyebrows back on. That's when the protagonist realizes something is very wrong with her. Man, this closet must feel like an oven baking bread. It must be 200 degrees in there. And the protagonist asks again why she's out of breath. Is she sick? Or maybe she just wants to steal a kiss from Johnson. Of course, she yells at him for that. But he insists on knowing the reason for her current state. And finally, she reveals that she can't handle small spaces. Yes, folks, she's claustrophobic. For those who really don't know what that is, it's when people feel extremely suffocated in tight spaces. We always ask if someone has claustrophobia before taking them into our basement after all. So she tells the protagonist that she's been through this before. In the past, she was bullied around halfway through high school. She was bullied simply for having fierce eyes. They forced her to eat until, one day, they locked her in a cleaning closet and left. Ever since then, she's had this phobia. Poor thing, right? Appearances can be deceiving. She regrets sharing this with him, as she didn't expect the time in the closet to drag on so long. And the protagonist, hearing all of this, starts to recall all the times she helped him. Then he says he's leaving now, which leaves her confused. He also mentions that he had no idea about all this, and if she was struggling, she should have said something sooner. And he praises her, saying she's done well until now. Well, protagonist, don't come out with these speeches or you'll even win us over with that charm. But it was the moment he went to open the door that he discovered it was locked from the outside. He starts shouting for someone to open the door and asks back Charon to wait a moment. However, when he looks at her, he realizes the poor girl is crying. Oh, come on, this is too much. He doesn't hesitate and activates his additional strength, breaking the closet door with a single punch, completing his mission to earn the silver card. Of course, he lost to her, which is why he earned the card. So get ready to be eyebrowless, my guy. And besides losing his eyebrows, he injured his fist. He was threatening the gossip when suddenly the brunette grabs him from behind, thanking him for everything. She says that if he shaves his eyebrows, she'll draw them back on for him. And you know things can't just go well for our protagonist, right? He has to make some kind of blunder. He quickly clarifies to her that he didn't punch the closet door because of her. He did it because he got a slow reaction. I think that's roughly what he meant. How tactless. Dude, at least that's what the translator interpreted. She starts thinking about what kind of reaction he had until she realizes, and she blushes all over. And of course, the curses that followed were from son of a peach and upright. But our protagonist is a bit slow, we have to admit. Instead of just saying something to her, he let it slide. I get that this isn't a romance story, but I'm starting to get frustrated here, man. Single Johnson isn't the path we want here. And suddenly, we cut to back Charon's friends who are crying. They say they didn't know Bake was claustrophobic. The protagonist says it's all good and that he'll never forgive them again. Whoa, cold-hearted guy. And he says this while flashing a huge grin. Now that I notice, he really is eyebrowless. This is unbelievable. The girls comment that he seems very happy to be without eyebrows, asking what happened inside the closet. I'm not telling you. Nothing much happened. And suddenly, the gossip appears, saying they're in big trouble now. The protagonist wonders, big trouble? What's happening here? Tell us. It seems, folks, that Yakuza was surrounded by 3 guys from the local school. They waited until Yakuza was alone to attack him. So the protagonist asks if these are the same guys who were waiting for them at the entrance when they arrived. The gossip confirms that yes, it's them. Then the protagonist very calmly says to leave Yakuza alone. The two start freaking out, begging him to save Yakuza. But he assures them it's okay, everyone, because today's Yakuza is not the same as before. Man, could today be the day Yakuza unleashes on some extras without mercy? Yes, it is. The guys stare at him, asking if he's scared, and he very calmly just observes. The guys even start to doubt, thinking this guy doesn't look like Yakuza at all, more like an idiot. That's what they say. These guys have pretty average stats. However, their leader, wearing an NFC shirt, has a decent status. Very good. But suddenly, the guy charges at Yakuza. You know when your life flashes before your eyes? No. Well, it was at that moment that Yakuza heard Johnson's voice, telling him not to doubt because if he didn't doubt, he can really become a Yakuza. This time, he bets his life on the nutrition card, and we have to agree, both cards are incredible. But the one that stands out the most is this one, the Sistema card. The group member can now use the system, which consists of military and martial arts styles. Yakuza suddenly lands a punch on the guy, combining a move I can't even describe. He almost did that famous martial arts move. Yakuza has become Jet Li, folks. We finally won, folks. With one strike, the guy found Jesus. This is Yakuza's new strength, and even without fully understanding what happened, his body moved on its own. He comments that it's so cool. The guys start asking if he was hiding his strength on purpose, but hold on a second, everyone. Are you all scared now? Don't be afraid, guys, or do I need to teach you how to breathe again? I think I forgot to introduce myself. I am Diablo Yakuza of Gangbuk, and the fight's about to heat up. Finally, our monstrous Diablo showed us his strength. Yakuza still has a lot to show in this manhwa. As for the brunette, I'm even happy with their relationship now. Even though this isn't a romance story, I'm hoping there's a little romance. Am I the only one who thinks this way? I don't know. Our Yakuza showed us his true strength, and now he's threatening this crowd, saying he'll close his eyes. So come at him. I'm telling you, Yakuza is too humble. The guy is doing everything to balance this fight. The guys come at him talking nonsense, and he just gives them a tap on the nose. I can see them heading straight to a place that does nose jobs after this. Not to mention Yakuza's hand positions. The guy's a bit rock and roll. But suddenly, one of the guys says he's bluffing and lands a punch on Yakuza's face, saying he doesn't know his place. But look at Yakuza's expression. He's not going to go easy on them anymore. He manages to knock the guys around laterally. He even asks if they weren't warned he's Diablo Yakuza of Gangbuk. The guy strikes a pose looking like a clumsy crane. This was the debut of our great Yakuza. His ego must be hitting the ceiling now. So much so that browless guy keeps asking him what happened. And in his mythic stance, he says he only did it for the girls. It's really gratifying to see Yakuza getting the attention he deserves. He's a true icon. Even Johnson feels happy because before it was just him getting stronger, and now Yakuza is evolving too, especially in his negotiations. He starts asking browless guy to get him some water. The girls say no one is getting water right now and tell him to leave their room. Browless guy stays formal, wishing them good night, while Johnson just says, see you tomorrow. The girls were even changing, asking each other if they'd brought comfortable clothes. And Johnson answers yes, he brought a nice outfit. Another girl says it's good he brought that outfit. Wait a minute, what's Johnson doing here? Of course the brunette slaps him hard, and off he goes, all sad. There are two possibilities, to succeed or not. I didn't succeed. It really wasn't my moment. But it's all too quiet today. He starts to feel weird, as he should be fighting the guys, having invaded their turf. But where's Ajun? It seems he went to meet someone who knows him. The guy himself mentions it's strange that Ajun called him, but he was curious, so he came. Apparently, Ajun came because he was worried about his friends, thinking the guys might attack him. However, the other guy says he only left him alone because they had Ajun with them. And he adds one more thing. Take your hands out of your pockets when you're talking to me. Now you can go, who Ajun? Whoa, this guy demands respect, huh? He's probably that top one we saw. I just don't get why they're being dramatic about hiding him now when we already showed him before, but okay. Still, why do I have the feeling that this guy is Guva Jun's brother? Is it just me, or am I going crazy? And I think Johnson is far from even scratching this guy for now. He'll still have to face Han no Jatar and maybe Douglas before he can think about confronting this one here, as this guy must be very powerful. And here's our protagonist back home. His sister is super curious, wanting to know what the pool place was like, and his mom finds it strange that her son has friends. Exactly. So Johnson doesn't even argue with them, does he, folks? He really is different now, but it's clearly because he's so tired. And what about that card the protagonist got when he came out of the closet? He immediately goes to reveal it. The card is called Boomer, and it's a card that increases the probability of things. As always, it's not the tool-boosting card, right? And at Yakuza's house, he announces he's home. And look at his dad's face. It's identical to his. How creepy is that? No way. My mind is going to explode now. There are two Yakuzas. The good thing is that at least the older Yakuza will look the same as he does today. Nothing will change. Suddenly, Yakuza mentions that he got into a fight today. His dad is shocked, and he starts talking about how his body moves the way he wants now, feeling like he awakened something. Then, out of nowhere, he asks his dad about the truth, asking if he was really just an office worker. His dad confirms that yes, he's just a regular worker, nothing different. And that's when the man got a strong slap on the back out of nowhere. It was Yakuza's mom calling him to eat. No, to hold on. I think I get what's happening here, folks. It's not Yakuza's dad who's the Yakuza. It's his mom. Damn man, I wasn't expecting that. Look at the hidden tattoos on her arm. Not to mention the slap with massive strength. Does this make sense now, or am I just imagining things? I don't know. Comment and let me know. Back at the protagonist's school, everyone's whispering about him because now he's eyebrowless. Imagine the embarrassment of walking around without eyebrows, especially at school. That must be really weird. And suddenly, someone grabs his arm. It's our back Charon pulling him somewhere. The girls start speculating that they're going off to kiss. What? The rumors at this school are going from 0 to 100 real quick. The poor guy wants to know what's happening this time. He's going to get in trouble again for something he didn't do. And she just told him to sit down because she promised to draw his eyebrows and now she's going to do it. He thanks her, but she mentions that this position is uncomfortable. And then, folks, she simply sat on his lap to draw. Okay, I admit I didn't see that coming either. Is the brunette taking the initiative or is it just me? I'm rooting more and more for this couple. There's no doubt. And suddenly, the guys open the door, saying they shaved their eyebrows for the protagonist. Not only did they kill the mood, but they also messed up. Everyone shaved their eyebrows for nothing. Now that the protagonist has his drawn back, these guys were already ugly. Now they look like a squash crab. And the reason for today's meeting is to begin Johnson's power expansion. But where should they start? Suddenly, the system creates a main mission. They'll have to choose between 3 options, and once chosen, there's no going back. The missions are a silver card to attack Gangbuk Dong, which is Han No Jetter's school, the gold card to attack Gangbuk Man, which belongs to Douglas, and a platinum card to attack the Gangbook of the monster. I take the platinum one off the list right away. That's not going to work. But the protagonist reflects on what would be best for him. He concludes that attacking Han No Jetter's school would be ideal. However, the problem is that it's just a simple silver card. I don't know if it's worth it. Doubtless isn't a bad option either, but breaking the good relationship they're building apparently wouldn't be great. And the best option for business would really be the last one, which is a very good platinum card. However, the mission likely means he'll be finished. True enough. So the protagonist declares that he's finally made up his mind. He's decided to attack right now. Let the games begin, folks. As always, punches are going to fly. It's finally time for war, folks. But where to start attacking? I'd go straight with my mom said and be done with it. But the protagonist says he's heading straight for Gangbuk Buck, the northern one where the monster is. However, gossip mentions it's not wise to do that because those guys Yakuza beat up in Pol Vila were nothing compared to the real members of Gangbuk Buck. There's a place where they play pool and there are only monsters inside. And their leader, ranked 39th in the school, is said to be frighteningly strong. Damn, number 39. Imagine the 5th, the 2nd, or the top one. We're done for then. No way around it. But the protagonist is aware they'll be destroyed if they attack Gangbuk Buck without thinking. So they're going to get stronger first. But then where should we start, folks? The best would be to finish off Han No Jatar for good. So get ready, everyone, because we're heading to your mom. At Han No Jatar's school, Gangbuk Dong, the same terrified guy, arrives again. He's the messenger boy, always the one delivering the news, announcing that Gangbuk Siu, in this case, Johnson's school, is making a move. Han No Jatar is thrilled, so he orders everyone to stand up because they will likely be Johnson's target. He announces to everyone that the war is about to start. Looks like a showdown is about to begin. But before he leaves, someone calls him to say something. However, it doesn't show what this guy says. Instead, it cuts to Douglas at his school, and he's also finding out that Johnson and his school are on the move. The guys are speculating that Johnson is heading to Han No Jatar's school, and they wonder if they should help take him down once and for all. Or maybe they should attack Gangbuk Siu from behind. But Douglas tells them they're staying put because this could be a trap set by Johnson. They'll only act once they see what happens. Then, out of nowhere, some guy rushes in, saying he knows where Johnson is planning to attack. And it's not Douglas's school, nor Han No Jatar's. This explains Han No Jatar's expression when that guy called him over, they're actually going to attack the big monster's school. Johnson's idea here is to make the leader of this place his ally to strengthen his group. Browless guy can't believe it. This will cause the guys to retaliate and destroy them completely. But the protagonist has a personal plan. Trust him. Of course, the main reason he's attacking this place is for that marvelous platinum card. Browless guy says he believes him, but things look tricky now. And he's talking about this here. Folks, look at how many guys are here. I don't think they'll be able to handle it. You need to stop getting into these messes. I got the reference. But Johnson knows the leader isn't there. And as he goes to check, someone's coming through the door. No, wait. Maybe it'll come through the second floor window, of course. Then someone arrives asking if they're customers. And that person is Songharu, number 39 of the school. The one everyone's been talking about. The protagonist is shocked because she's a girl. The clever protagonist quickly asks if she wants to join his group, saying he loves her and everything. Dude, what's up with that, protagonist? You're quick on the trigger lately, huh? She's left confused. Even the gossip guy scolds him for saying something like that out of the blue. But he says it's love at first sight. Suddenly, she kicks the protagonist in the face, probably leaving him toothless. The guys start to freak out, and she says she's number 39 of the school and asks if they came to entertain her. She or he? I'm not sure now. Let's say it's he. Gossip guy steps forward, questioning how she could be a woman, but he's cut off by a punch as he clarifies he's a man. And the guy's just standing there like, how do you have a woman's body? As expected of Gangbuk Buck. I'm not a woman, damn it. Are you stupid? But she knows gossip guy held back because he thought she was a woman, or is she? Now I'm confused, I don't know either. Help. But the real gentleman here is Yakuza, who says he'll fight her. Our great Diablo. But someone tells him to stop. It was Johnson himself saying he'll handle this. The guys ask if he's okay, and he says it's his first time. I thought his first time being knocked out or something. But he says, all happy, that it's his first time being run over by a girl. What? Is this a fetish? I think Johnson likes a trap, folks. Not the music kind, if you know what I mean. She gets mad, saying he's not a girl, and punches the protagonist, but he dodges and even says, "Nice to meet you," mid-fight, calling himself Tank Top Johnson as he jabs her. Dude, if this lands, people might say he's sexist, unless it's a trap. Or not. I don't know anymore. I'm all glitched out. The protagonist is more impressed by how charming she's while dodging than the dodge itself. So in this case, he throws a strong kick and she dodges again. Everyone is stunned, including the pool table guys. They genuinely don't know who will win and just cheer them on. The protagonist says she's really incredible, asking if she does any sports or anything like that. But she says no. And he says, so she trains a lot with that girl's body of hers? Huh. No way. There must be a story behind this. And he tells her to pay attention now. He spied on a lot of people, but he thinks she's better than them. And he's not saying that because she's pretty, no. He says it because he believes in her. Then he proposes that if he wins, she'll join his team. Let's give it our best, Sasan Haru. And Haru Haku. Both are traps. Coincidence? Yes, it is. She just doesn't understand why the protagonist wants her so much. The protagonist is into a little trap action. It's pretty enjoyable. But he says he can see it in her. She asks what he sees while throwing a punch at him. But the protagonist dodges it with ease. And here we see her stats. Actually, they're not bad, right? What the protagonist saw in her, folks, was enormous potential. And he says this while landing a solid punch to her stomach. Protagonist being a macho, and now a submission is created to recruit Song Haru. He says she keeps surprising him with attacks, so he can assume the bet has started. So what do you think, folks? Do you think it's a good idea to have this girl on the team? Or is it a boy? What do you think? Comment and let me know. Is it a girl or a boy? I think it's a girl. But the girl says she doesn't want to join his team while punching him. However, the protagonist once again dodges easily and throws a punch at her guard that almost bends her arm back. The protagonist is determined to recruit her, no matter what. Then she punches him, telling him not to get distracted. It's the classic, you snooze, you lose. Only she's startled when the protagonist falls against her. Is the protagonist just a flirt, or did he really lose the fight? The guys are all clueless about what's happening here. Not even his own friends understand. The girl doesn't know what to do. But why do I feel like the protagonist is taking advantage of the situation? So much so that, unexpectedly, he hugs her, smiling and saying her fabric softener smells nice. Look at this guy, and he's doing all this while using the additional weight card. The girl asks why he's smiling when, out of nowhere, he picks her up, and you know the rest. Then the protagonist leans close to her ear and says she can't escape from him. What does that mean? Has the protagonist gone crazy? I think we really should call the police now. Me too. And that's how the mission was completed, folks. Throw the platinum card right here. Today, I'm confident it's the card that increases the tool, right, folks? And suddenly, we flash back to something from the past in an abandoned building. The trap is talking to someone, saying she can keep fighting, that she wants another chance and won't accept just being number 39. But this person here is number 2 in the Buck school. Let's just say he's not very interested in talking. The only thing he said was that she should be grateful for at least earning the 39th position at school and that she'll be responsible for a pool bar because the place for rejects is down there. From what I understood here, he granted her the 39th position because she's a woman, got it. That's why she insists she's not a girl in this context. Mystery solved. Now we're the Sherlock Holmes gang, or maybe I just got it all wrong. That's possible too. And she wakes up startled on top of a table with someone telling her she can't get up yet. And this person is the crazy gossip, heating up some needles, saying he knows Oriental medicine. Personally, I wouldn't trust gossip much. But she only wants to know where she is at that moment. And the protagonist, striking a Ben 10 pose, says they're at his school and that she doesn't need to worry because he'd never touch a girl in that way. So if he'd touch her in other ways then? The girl was about to leave, but he tells her that now she's part of his team. She insists she doesn't want that, and then he gets serious, asking if she really doesn't want it. And he does this while using that boomer card he won, remember? This card increases the chances of persuading someone, folks. He quickly says it's for her own good, asking how old she is. She answers that she's 17, and the protagonist immediately follows up, saying that if she's 17, she must have a big dream, or is she just satisfied with the pool hall? When he was about to say, if you join my team, she quickly says she accepts. What? He quickly touched on the girl's sore spot, or is this card stolen too? I can't say right now. However, she says she'll want him to grant her wish later. So there it is, everyone. The trap is now part of the team. The protagonist, out of nowhere, goes and hugs her, and the guy without eyebrows is even crying with excitement because Johnson made a new friend. But she starts saying that they now have a big problem. They're in serious trouble. Since the protagonist invaded their space and even recruited her, the guys will come at them like bulldozers. What will he do to handle this? She even says she doesn't have the courage to fight rank 1. If he doesn't solve this problem, she won't want to work with him. And he starts complimenting her, saying she's cute. Because it's all planned out, don't worry about it. Should I trust everyone? I don't know. This feels like a trap, doesn't it? Both trusting the protagonist and not knowing if she's really a woman. Back in the pool hall, the guys comment that they expected nothing less from her. She managed to return after going alone to Johnson's school, but they feel she's been acting strange lately, And the reason for that is that it's not Haru here, everyone. It's a cloud copy of Haru. They fooled us well this time. The good thing is that if needed, the cloud can even beat up the guys. And even the gossip doesn't know how he managed to shake off the guys. I won't tell you. The protagonist quickly puts a bow on her head saying it's a disguise. But you're all aware that this is just one of Johnson's fetishes, right? The guys say they're going to spread the rumor now that she betrayed them. But according to her, everyone will be taken down because the guys will come after everyone. So the protagonist decides to leave, heading straight to the bathroom. What do you think he's going to do, everyone? Reveal his new cards? He's bald. What? Bald? You're going bald? I didn't get that ending. One of the cards he got because he invaded Gangbuk Buck and another for recruiting Haru, right? And he immediately reveals the silver one first, which is just a tennis card. It'll probably be destroyed later so we can see if the tool upgrade one comes up, right, everyone? Speaking of the tool upgrade card, that's the one we want. Who's with me in trusting that the platinum one is the tool upgrade one? Type tool upgrade in the chat now. I trust. It has to be the one. The protagonist grabs his throat a little because even the Wi-Fi signal doesn't pass through now. And the card that came out, everyone, is the diaper, as in diapers. The description reads, I wet my pants. What the heck is this? Wasn't this supposed to be an attack card, says the protagonist, because the tool upgrade one isn't everyone. And it's really weird on top of that. And suddenly, the system creates a nutrition mission, probably related to the new card. Or not. I don't know. All I know is that I know nothing now since the tool upgrade card didn't come. I'm even a little sad. Suddenly, it cuts to Gangbuk Nam, where a guy is training. The number one in the school, Douglas in this case, thinking everything is ready for Johnson now. No one messes with that monster and gets away unscathed. Maybe. But that doesn't apply to Johnson. Things only end when they're truly over. Trust. And suddenly, his message boy arrives, terrified, saying they're under attack. Who comes to mind? Of course it's Han no Jotaro, right? But the one attacking is actually Johnson. The guy is uncontrollable. He wants to attack everyone now. He's gone crazy. Douglas thought they were attacking Gangbuk Buck, and the guy confirmed it, right? But it seems like the ones who were attacked didn't suffer any damage that time. And currently, Johnson is attacking the tunnel. If they don't send reinforcements, all their forces will go down the drain. And suddenly, the Yakuza tells Haru that if she's tired, she can lean on him. But, as always, she retorts that she's not a girl. And now, everyone. Haru is number 5 at Johnson's school. From 39 to 5, she's doing really well, isn't she? The protagonist went there because the nutrition mission now is to discover Gangbuk Man's business and once again, gain a significant number of cards. In total, there'll be 6 cards. Then comes the question, everyone. Are we going to predict that Yakuza will become stronger or will we bet on the new team member? But enough small talk now. Let's smash Gangbuk Man, everyone. The guys in the tunnel start wondering if they're dreaming because it's not normal for a girl to come to the battlefield like this. You're literally going to bite your tongue, right? Even if it's by force. Of course, she claims that she's not a girl, throwing a hard punch right into the guy's mouth. This trap is strong. Then she dodges another punch, using him as leverage to go higher. Yes, she actually started floating there, but at 50 kilograms, even I could do that. And the guy, out of nowhere, grabs her by the hair too, obviously, if her a being, right? But she, even midair, manages to hit them both at the same time. And this doesn't quite look like a man's reach. I couldn't do that myself. It could be, in my case, an age thing as well. Could be. And suddenly, the girl starts to get furious. Because Johnson, instead of helping, is jotting down some things in a little notebook. And folks, I think I finally found someone who draws worse than I do. Look at this sketch the protagonist made of Haru. It's Kurapera. Now check out my realistic drawing of Zed. It's incredible, isn't it? Of course, the protagonist is doing this to determine which status-boosting card would work best on her, specifically the strength and endurance cards, since her speed is exceptional. Then someone shows up with the famous Devil's Hand position and the classic kidney stone removal hand. And of course, it's the Yakuza, all stylish, taking down opponents. But the protagonist's concern is obtaining nutrition cards. For that, he'll need to go deeper into enemy territory. Not long after, individuals got tired of literally beating up extras. Yes, you heard it right. They managed to get tired from so much knocking out. And it's always at moments like these that someone shows up. The guy's all beat up, and then a crazy dude arrives. The one who just showed up is Gangbuk Man's number 18, Juninho Bang. He's got his eyes directly on Haru. Look at that, another one who likes the trap. And if we compare the stats of the two, Juninho is actually a bit better. But he's no match for our great Yakuza, El Diablo. And when the Yakuza is preparing to deal with Juninho, he gets an unexpected punch to the nose. And what a punch, huh? I'll tell you the guy who attacked Yakuza is number 17, Juninho Bang Segundo. Yes, they're twins. I'm not joking, it's real. Like those market promotions, 2 for 1. We have to admit that even after taking a hard hit, the Yakuza keeps his style. And going through the stuff of the guy who was dozing off, the protagonist finds a bag. Probably inside here are the items needed to complete his mission. The problem is that when he tries to open it to check, the protagonist is caught from behind by a big guy. What's this? This guy is the school's number 10, named Wong. And before the protagonist can react, the guy uses the famous move, Spine Tear. By the way, fix your posture, bro. You're sitting worse than L in a chair. I can see it. I can see it. Our protagonist even tries to use that energy-recovering pill, but the big guy shows up out of nowhere and sits on him. And you know what that means. There's no way out. The guy starts pummeling the protagonist. Well, you can't win them all. When the guys go to report to Douglas, their fear was losing the bag, but when he sees one of Johnson's photos lying on the ground, the story changes. They grab the bag and prepare to leave, but guess who was awake there? And there's no better time to use that last card you won, the one that says he wet his pants. And it couldn't have a better name for the love of God. But to use it, here's how it works. All group members must be incapacitated to fight. Then, all those members gain an incredible status bonus for 1 minute, plus recover all physical exhaustion. The downside of this card is it can only be used once a month. And I'd say, depending on the status it offers, it's at least fair. This skill is on the same level as Seojaen's skill, even with the same cooldown time. Coincidence? Because look at what this card does. Besides reviving the fallen and recovering them, check out the guy's new stats. The Yakuza's stats are truly impressive. The guy is as strong as Guva Jun, and now the roles have reversed. Look who's lying on the ground now. The game has changed, hasn't it? That's exactly what they reported to Douglas. Johnson from the tank top won and is taking the bag away, and Douglas, desperate, sends word to Han no Jatar that the war will start now. The guy said this with his eyes wide open. This must be something huge for him to have his eyes open like that. He was always walking around with his eyes closed. Now the net is closed in on our protagonist. I invited Han no Jatar. Tell him that the real war is about to begin. We're going to take down Johnson first. After our boy Johnson grabbed Douglas' bag, they head to a park deciding if they'll really open the case. Finally, they decided to open it. The trap, upon seeing it, starts asking if it's a bomb. But what was in the bag, folks, even they didn't know what it was. They started saying it looked like a pet, like a bandage, something that sticks to your body. The girl begins to suggest it's probably because Douglas gets hurt a lot, but Johnson claims it must be used to open Douglas' eyes. Now I get it, and he knows how Douglas makes money with it. He probably takes elderly people for bus rides and only lets them get off if they buy these bandages. The funny thing is that the trap is going along with his idea. Johnson's mind is more twisted than mine. Look at that theory. Luckily, the Yakuza called Johnson over to clarify, saying it's called fentanyl, a narcotic painkiller. In other words, it's a drug that leaves people hallucinated. When I'm really out of it, I lose control. The two just watch Yakuza speak, and he explains that Douglas probably bought it from a doctor and sells it to students to make money. Strangely, Yakuza seems to know a lot. Of course, they ask him how he knows all this. He replies that strangely, his mother knows about these things. I really want to see Yakuza's mom in action, or maybe she's already retired from the Yakuza since she's getting older. So since they uncovered Douglas's school business, they received nutrition cards. Now is it Yakuza's turn to surpass Hajun? I'm not sure. Then we cut to a cafe where Han no Jatar receives a call from Douglas. Douglas starts saying a few things like he's going to attack Johnson's school and wants his help. But Han no Jatar says that to cooperate, he wants Gangbuk Mound land. It's that piece of land in the corner of the map. If he gives that territory to Han no Jatar, he will defeat Johnson along with him. And wouldn't you know, Douglas agrees. He says they should go together now. But Han no Jatar asks if he doesn't know his style yet. He's going there now and alone. I have a feeling this will be a major headache for our dear Johnson. But this time, he has the nutrition cards. I hope it saves the kid's skin. He even considers using all the cards on himself, but he has plenty of ways to get by on his own. So he doesn't need them. He should use them on Haru, since Yakuza already has those martial arts cards. Yakuza is on track, everyone. Let's make him stronger. I support him 100%. Me too. After thinking it over, Johnson realizes something. Someone is trying to contact him, and it's one of his henchmen telling him they're under attack by Han no Jatar. This is where the son cries and the mother doesn't see. 3 of the strongest are already in their area and are already hitting our friend without eyebrows. He even tries to take one last breath, but soon takes one to the face and another to the ribs, plus a blow to the back. The guy is really being beaten up. I'm done for. And it even ends with the big guy sitting on him. However, Big Guy is talking a lot for someone who was once beaten up by Johnson. Even so, he keeps getting into our eyebrowless friend's head, saying he's spoiling the strength of Johnson's team. He's the one responsible for weakening the team. And let me tell you, that really got into his head. He's even crying. Suddenly, Johnson gets a call. It was the junkie, with eyebrowless guy's phone informing him that a war has begun. As Johnson runs there, he gets a message from the system, saying that eyebrowless guy is now full of confidence and his awakening is about to start. And the guy begins to stand up with a piece of wood because he's awakened. His potential, which was F, is now shining brightly. And observe the crazy guy's expression, full of determination. The big guy charges at him to smash him, and since he's awakened, our guy without eyebrows earned his own card, allowing him to wield a weapon with ease. His strength will increase depending on the tool he uses, and he quickly breaks Gordolfo with several strikes. Could you be our new wooden boy? I don't know. The guy is even glowing with that wood in his hand. I've never seen anyone so happy holding a piece of wood. And of course, check out his new status with a wooden hand. And now he's no longer without eyebrows, as he now has ketchup-painted eyebrows. So come on up and take a hit. However, the two crazy guys aren't intimidated, stating that he's still outnumbered. In fact, he would be at a disadvantage if Hajun hadn't arrived on the scene. He came fast and, unfortunately, forgot his lighter, so light him a cigarette. The guys start asking why they should light his cigarette, but it's not for them to light it. Call Hanno Jatar here, he'll light it for me. Oops, now it's time to trade punches face to face. This is one I want to see. Hanno Jatar versus Hajun. Let the punches fly. We quickly return to our wooden boy facing Gordolfo, who tells him to drop the piece of wood. Let's drop the wood on your head. But the big guy has good resistance and learned to defend against the strikes. So he struck back, hitting the eyebrowless guy's nose. Yep, the wooden boy was defeated. In fact, the 200 kilograms Gordolfo is now coming to crush him. While Johnson was running, he saw eyebrowless's status. Even awakened, he wouldn't beat Gordolfo with that status unless his status changed again. And you know why it changed now? We just evolved from wooden boy to turbo guy. This one wouldn't pass a checkpoint, right? And now it's just used motorcycle exhaust on the big guy. He dropped some catchphrases because if there aren't any catchphrases, it's not our eyebrowless guy. And then he fell onto Gordolfo. I'm not even going to talk about what these guys are doing anymore because it's becoming normal to throw themselves onto each other in this manhwa. And he knows there are still two guys left to face. One of them is this odd one here, Park, and the other is in the hands of the monster Hajun. Now there's only one left to smash, since the other needs to go to the hospital. Park wastes no time and comes at him, saying that last time he was caught off guard and that now it'll be different. He grabs onto Hajun and says he's going to show him the difference between himself and the other guys. With a furious expression, he headbutts Hajun, and you could hear the impact from home. The sound was nasty. He shuts his mouth when Hajun stares at him and says he sees no difference between him and the other trash there. Hajun then grabs him by the mouth and slams him in the ribs, making them crack. That's the power of Hajun. He starts delivering several blows to the ribs to tenderize the meat. And when he was about to deliver the final blow, Hanno Jatar appeared out of nowhere, attacking him with a flying kick. The guy went flying and hit the car, and then Hanno Jatar arrives, saying Park is from his gang. You're crazy to mess with us, Hajun. And as you might remember, Hanno Jatar is Gangbuk Dong's #1, and he asks if Johnson is present. Hajun confirms that he's not. Then Hanno Jatar declares that Hajun is finished, as he brought these three guys here known as the Action Team. And these three guys, according to him, I'm not interested. Hajun just asks him to shut up and light his cigarette. This is our #3 from Gangbuk Seo, Hajun. The guy, even apparently down on his luck, has style. I think he's a true peaky blender. Hanno Jatar laughs, saying he'll be finished soon and sends the three crazy guys at him. But our Hajun is cool and calculating today. He lands a right punch on the first one who didn't have bad status. He throws a left punch at the second, whose status was even a bit better, and delivers a classic uppercut to the one who seemed to be the best of them. The guy beat the three and asked for his cigarette to be lit again. But we know Hanno Jatar just wants to tire him out to then take him down with punches. That's the famous war tactic. That Johnson received a call saying it's 3 against Hajun. This makes Johnson think hard about what to do, trying to find a way to help Hajun, until he finally comes up with something. Meanwhile, Hanno Jatar keeps praising Hajun as he's beating up the three guys, though he's gradually getting tired. So Hanno Jatar proposes that Hajun join his school, promising to give him anything he wants if he does. But Hajun just says he wants someone to light his damn cigarette. This makes Hanno Jatar furious, and he orders the guys to keep attacking him. And it was even working. However, from where he was, Johnson says he's found a method to help Hajun from a distance. Those extra cards he had, he says he's going to use all of them on Hajun. Absolutely. Let me tell you, if the guy was already a monster, now he's glowing like a firefly. He was paying attention to what was going on until he took an elbow to the nose. And then he receives a wild sequence of hits. The guys are in shock, including Hanno Jatar, as he realizes this is the Kizi fighting method created by the Spanish Special Forces unit, my friend. This method is where your body becomes a weapon. So Hajun gets straight to the point, saying that Hanno Jatar is sending those guys after him who can't handle him, is that Alvin plans to take over the school. With this ridiculous plan, and that's when he said that Johnson is stronger than him. This will be impossible for you, Hanno Jatar. This school is impossible for you to conquer. And notice the difference in Hajun's new stats, everyone. The guy was already a monster. I don't even know what to say about him anymore. He's now transformed into a Megazord. To give you an idea, the authors of the story are even drawing lines beside the stats as there's no more space to add power. And I'm even more impressed because he's praising Johnson, stating that Johnson is stronger than him. And Johnson is wondering what's going on. After using so many cards, why haven't Hajun's stats increased significantly? Probably he needs more cards to level up to an S rank or even a more powerful card. Therefore, the only thing he can do now is run to help the guy as there's still no teleportation card. And meanwhile, Hajun is just pummeling the guys. He's throwing punches from all angles. He's like a sugarcane grinder. None of the three there are a match for him. It's just punch after punch, smashing noses inward. The guy is literally a side character who crushes side characters. When one of the guys tries to catch his breath, he comes back furious and finishes the guy. But we only see a little foot in his view. That little foot was Hanno Jatar swatting a fly off his head. And what a strike. He starts saying that the feeling of kicking is nice, and that's why he was expelled from a contest. But of course, my friend, kicking guys in the temple, you definitely deserve to be kicked out. That kick, folks, was right in the temple. I call it the power button, because like a computer, turn it off there and the whole computer shuts down. And he's all dazed, seeing 3 hand no jatars. And it's the famous Moscow knockout. Ham no Jader loves the cowardly approach, and Hajun was defending all of them. If the guy didn't have the famous Sarakira leg, Han no Jatar is landing long-range kicks with his legs. That's it, folks. Hajun is close to defeat. Han no Jatar comes running and delivers several kicks, then climbs on top of him, taking the highest belay position to finish off Hajun. And he almost would have if Hajun hadn't grabbed him by the leg and punched him in the chin. Take that. You deserve that one. You thought it would be easy to invade Gangbuk Seo. At least you'll be going home with a missing tooth. But Hajun is wrecked, folks. He actually says he lost. Han no Jatar asks, what? But Hajun didn't say that to him. He actually admitted that he lost today, but it won't be like this next time. He said that to Johnson from the tank top, who has just arrived. He asked Johnson to finish this. And look at Johnson's face. Is there going to be a fight today? Then I'll go get the popcorn. Han no Jatar starts asking if Johnson thinks he can win today. And I think, one-on-one, he might, right? Johnson himself says that this time it will be very different from the last time. He says this while adjusting his tank top. Yeah, Han no Jatar, I think you're done, my friend. Lower your guard and hurry if you don't want to get hurt. And one-on-one he could, right? But since when does Han no Jatar play fair? He brought the entire school to join the fight. Yeah, Johnson, I think now we're in trouble, right? Han himself says that if he went around without plans, he'd never unify Gangbuk like this, you know. And to make things worse, Eyebrowless says they have a problem now. Doubtless a group is coming for revenge and Han no Jatar says this is war. Don't you know when you'll be hit from behind or ally with the enemy? He says Johnson just jumped into this mess without knowing anything. Yeah, I agree. He says he's being nice today because Johnson's school will disappear from the map. And to prevent him from recruiting people again, he should at least take one of Johnson's members here and now. But Johnson asks him to wait. He suggests they make a deal. Just let us go. Han no Jatar starts asking why he should let them go. And of course it's because of the bag, right, folks? In exchange, he could give them the bag. This bag could do significant damage to Douglas's school, and Han no Jatar can get Johnson anytime. He doesn't need to worry about that. And in the end, he even uses Han no Jatar's own words against him, talking about being hit from behind or forming alliances. This is the moment. But Han no Jatar says he just needs to take this by force. Look, you can try to take it by force if you want, but come here and try now then. I'll set the bag on fire, and you lose everything, bro. Man, even Han no Jatar laughs at the kid's cleverness, you know? Looks like we're making a deal, right? I'm just sad I won't see the two of them fight now. But it's better to leave alive and fight later because otherwise, this crowd might turn sour. And here was Douglas when he received a call from Han no Jatar. He tells him over the phone that he's not going to beat Johnson anymore and that Douglas is even sneakier than him with the stuff he's been getting into. Looks like I'll have a lot to talk about now. Well, Douglas, looks like you missed the scene. And once again, we're back with Johnson's Gangbuk Seo. He's apologizing to everyone for surrendering like that, you know. But since they haven't lost their territory, everything's fine. However, now they realize they need a strategist because the situation is complicated. And that's when Eyebrowless says he knows one. Someone very powerful, both in internal and external strategies. The former number 2 of the God Dogs, the former overseer of Gangbuk Seo. The guy's name is Jing Jiang. Many people tried to recruit him, but no one succeeded because he was a loner. And this, of course, is what was made up about the guy, right? And that's when the system created a new nutrition mission. The system wants Johnson to recruit this guy. With him on the team, he'll be able to conquer this world. And as a reward for recruiting him, guys, Johnson will receive 4 high-level upgrade cards. Is this the one we used to go beyond rank S? And of course, I really think a nerd was missing in the group. We already have a trap in the group, but I still want to see Johnson fight Han no Jatar. We return directly to Johnson, wanting to know where Jing Jiang lives. But Eyebrowless gets all tongue-tied trying to talk. He says many have tried, but no one has managed to recruit the guy. Because the guy himself says his talent shouldn't be used for war anymore. Man, judging by how it sounds, the guy is a genius of the continent. He's the new Albert Einstein. Must be. Of course, they're not going to give up without trying. So after a while, there they go to see Jing. But they're stopped by this kid here, who tells them to go back saying the guy is currently in a promotional match. The Yakuza begins asking if the guy doesn't know the famous Johnson from the tank top, because the Yakuza loves causing a scene. If there's a chance for trouble, he's already got a piece of wood in hand. However, Johnson instructs him to stay calm. After introducing himself, he asks the man to inform his superior of his presence. They were already leaving and commenting that after the 3rd visit, the boss will definitely agree. Then Eyebrowless tried to speak, but Johnson interrupted him non-stop, until Eyebrowless pointed to the man and claimed he's the notorious Jing Jiang. Impressive, isn't it? If Eyebrowless weren't there, he probably would have lied about his identity. The group soon started saying it was a mistake to come here, as the man is somewhat intimidating. Meanwhile, Johnson is thrilled to have found the guy. If he's crazy, then what is Johnson? The man states he hasn't changed his mind and doesn't intend to get involved in another war. When looking at his status, Johnson notices the man is completely out of place. However, his intelligence is impressive, and he keeps insisting he won't back down until he sees Trap fixing her hair. So I ask you, what's the best way to win over a nerd? I don't even need to comment. Hello, my sweet dream treat. You're delicious. He quickly invites Johnson to come in and bring the lady along. After listening to Johnson's whole story, lamenting over his impulsive, unplanned actions, the man comments that things will resolve themselves, because he knows Douglas would attack Han no Jatar to reclaim his business. However, it involves territories or money. In short, the attack will be aimed at them after all to conquer territory and continue the expansion. But if both attack simultaneously, it will be game over for Johnson. It's done. However, there is a way to block the attack and even expand the territory at the same time. For this, he will need to get borrowed power from the outside. Of course, Eyebrowless mentions that everyone on the outside is an enemy, but the man says he needs to connect with a partial group of Buck High. The gang Buck High is a powerful faction, and they should ask for help to defend against Han no Jatar. Naturally, they will only help if a promise is made to share everything captured from the enemies. Nobody would turn down such an offer. So he explains the plan for how Gangbuck C might survive this. Yes, the guy even has a board, and he states he didn't want to get involved in the war because he already had everything planned. The idea is to place Hajun on the front line of the division with Han no Jatar, along with all his allies, while the rest of the group attacks Douglas, looking for an opening. And when they see that the upper school is helping, the real war between the three groups will begin. And the number 2 of God I mentioned earlier isn't the slimy one here, but his brother. It seems he's from another work by this author called Luquism. By the way, check out the young man's status. He's not bad either. Now on the battlefield, there's the monstrous Hajun until someone calls out to him. 2 low-rank individuals approach, mocking the fact that Hajun lost to Han no Jatar and now needs their help to stop him. Look at that. They even mention he should know who's in charge there as they're asking for help. Hajun doesn't hesitate to punch one of them, stating he really needs to clarify who's boss here. Take that. He was about to deliver a lesson that would hurt more than any punch if one of the guys of slightly higher rank hadn't shown up, advising him to save his energy for Han no Jatar. It's worth mentioning that all of this is happening under the radar. The school leader doesn't know this is going on here. This is a partial group that wants to climb the ranks, even if it means allying with Johnson from the tank top. So the famous deal was made. Buck High and Seo are now in an alliance, and that was the call Johnson received from the monster Hajun. Hajun was about to hang up when Johnson asked him to wait. He mentions that if it weren't for Hajun, they would have been in serious trouble back then. He thanks Hajun for always protecting their school, explaining that he didn't have time to express this before. But Hajun responds that he shouldn't get the wrong idea as he's only doing it because he doesn't like Han no Jatar. So they say their goodbyes, but Johnson realizes it's a lie. The man is genuinely interested in the school's progress, or maybe even in him. Now that the team is growing, he needs to become stronger and make them stronger too. When he spots a bus, Johnson has a brilliant idea. The guys from Buck High are noticing something strange. They're puzzled by the presence of a guy with a bag over his head. Of course, this man is Johnson, who invades Buck High to get more missions. That was his genius plan. And it didn't take long, the system created a mission for him to check the strength of this Buck High. For this, he'll earn a diamond card. Whoa, could that be where our legendary tool upgrade card is? The guys try to attack Johnson, but he dodges and counters with a strong punch to the guy. There's the famous old man with the sack, and then there's Johnson's sack. No, wait, that sounded a bit strange. Johnson with the sack. And the guy he punched didn't fall. Instead, he came right back at him. He dodged easily, if it weren't for another guy kicking him from behind. Yeah, Johnson, it looks like you walked into the lion's den, my friend. Everyone is pounding him. Of course, most attack him from behind in a sneaky way, but he chose this himself. He's got to deal with it now. To top it off, he got kicked by the bald guy. He's confused about being in Gangbuck Buck territory, but those guys from the pool were so weak before. Why are they so strong now? I don't know. Anyway, the 5 came at him again. And history repeats itself, 5 against 1, and in the end, it's Johnson who ends up battered. Coincidence? I'm noticing a pattern. After beating Johnson, the guys were leaving, but one of them heard something. Johnson's sack starts to rise. Of course, it's thanks to that masochism card, where the more he gets hit, the more he likes it. And after consuming a recovery C from Dragon Ball, it's Johnson who charges for the attack. After a while, he calls the Yakuza out of breath. This leads Yakuza to make jokes, of course. Are you getting one off, you rascal? This irritates Johnson, and he says he'll continue the conversation. He informs that he's training in enemy territory as Han no Jatar and Douglas must be in serious tension. This will buy them time. And this time should be used to get stronger. The situation is complicated, but Yakuza asks if it's safe to trust the nerd giving out strategies. And that's when Johnson hears something strange on the line. He heard Yakuza making an awkward noise. What's that about? Yakuza's joking around. But Johnson knows he can't fully trust the nerd like that. However, Eyebrowless got pretty beat up this time, and that, of course, was because he acted without thinking, without a strategist. He doesn't trust the nerd much either, but in the end, he has a plan. The plan is to get strong. If you get strong, you can just go around punching everyone, and that's it. And that's exactly what he's doing right now, folks. The mission was updated. He's already checked the guy's skills, and now he needs to make Johnson's sack famous. And the reward, you already know, a diamond card. Is that the tool upgrade card? Well, for now, he can't be seen. So he'll continue this mission after school, folks. He's going to get stronger no matter what. But now it's time to go home. Until next time. And suddenly, we cut to a nightclub where a DJ is playing electronic music. Then someone tells him to stop the music. The boss of the place himself asks why he stopped the music like that. And this guy here is ranked 20th in Gangbuk Buck. They stopped the music to announce that a suspicious guy, let's put it that way, was attacking their forces. And when the boss asks for this suspicious guy's name, Johnson's sack, sir. It was Johnson's sack. He's the one who attacked us. And this guy isn't so insignificant. Well, maybe just a bit insignificant, actually. And back at school, guess who sat on Johnson's lap again to do his eyebrows? I know. Of course, it's our protagonist, Brunette. She's all annoyed saying he should have done it himself, but she's fooling no one. She wanted to sit there, didn't she? He says he tried to paint them himself, but his cat scratched him all over. Oh, a cat. Sure. It wasn't from some fight out there, right? And of course, the scene plays out as always. She says she's not going to draw his eyebrows anymore. She storms out angrily, leaving him with a slap on his face. Classic as always. Nothing more beautiful than love, right, folks? The lovebirds as always. And that's when his mission was updated. Now Johnson's bag is famous. The protagonist doesn't know how that happened, but I believe there must be a rumor going around about a maniac with a bag on his head beating people up out there. Maybe that's why. But when the mission updated, folks, the system now wants him to befriend Soha. What's the system planning now? Wasn't the mission to explore Gangbuk Buck? So does this girl have some connection with the school there? And wherever Johnson goes, he grabs attention. I'm talking about things like him stealing toilet paper. I don't remember that, folks. Am I going crazy, or is this what made him famous and we just don't know it? My goodness, I'm lost. Hello, help. And Johnson was already thinking about how to get in touch with Soha. He doesn't even know how to respond to the girl on the phone since she was always chasing after him. In short, he has to give her more attention now. And here was the protagonist, Brunette, sipping a coffee when her friends asked if she likes Johnson, which made her really annoyed, right, folks? But if she's offended, that means she does like him, doesn't it? She even says he's playful, very interesting, and that hitting him is fun. It's just that ending that's a bit odd, but oh well. Then one of the girls says he's like her boyfriend then. And right at that moment, she looks out the window and sees Johnson talking with Soha. And Soha is even lightly flirting with Johnson, but the guy's practically asleep on his feet. The brunette, all desperate, calls out to Johnson. But from where you are, he can't hear you, my dear. And then she turns away to sit, thinking, it's Johnson. There's no way the guy is on a date. But as they say, folks, who forgives a hole is the city council. Is that right or not? Johnson's on the scene for business, folks, and she says he can feel comfortable with her. Then he asks where she'd like to go, but she says she doesn't have any specific place in mind. So how about a coffee, right, my dear? And then we cut suddenly to Johnson's mom talking to her daughter. In this case, Johnson's beautiful sister, asking why she doesn't go on dates and get a boyfriend. She says her friends must be dating right now. But the protagonist's sister says they don't care about love. And then the mother asks, what about Soha? Does Soha care about love? But the protagonist's sister says she only cares about her studies. And she even tells her mom that Soha is a perverted, crazy, and troubled girl. The mother even says she doesn't seem that way. But the protagonist's sister studied with her since elementary school. And when she started high school, she was different. The mother says she must be dating at her age. But someone like Soha, she's crazy. There's no way she's dating, says the protagonist's sister. Well, folks, from what I'm seeing, the fight between the girls over the protagonist is about to begin the way things are going. But the question that won't go away is, will the brunette finally realize she likes Johnson, or will the maniac take that trophy home today? No. Johnson asks what's going on because the girl is undressing in front of him, saying he's the one who wanted to get closer to her. Not wrong, but our Johnson is a bit slow with these things, my dear. Take it easy, or the kid will have a heart attack right at the start. And suddenly, he's in the living room watching TV, talking about how cool her house is. But he's getting bored because he's been on the couch for too long. Yes, she brought Johnson into her house. Is something going on tonight, folks? For sure. Except Johnson is in the living room and Soha went to her room. He even asks if she's asleep as she's taking a long time. But she's holding the door handle, thinking she's going crazy for bringing a guy there. And not just any guy. It's Johnson from the tank top. Then Johnson himself says he has an idea since she's too scared to talk to him face to face. She can talk from behind the door if she wants. And she agrees with that. Then he asks about her hobbies and she says she likes reading books. Just needed to add masochism at the end, didn't you, my dear? Our masochism, books what you like to read. The protagonist keeps going with basic questions like what food she likes, always checking to see if the mission updates, but no luck. Then he starts to remember that when they were little, she was shy and quiet. The only friend she had was the protagonist's own sister. The protagonist himself didn't talk to her. And that remains the same even in high school. They only communicate from a distance. Online dating works, trust me. Then, out of nowhere, she asks if he remembers middle school. He says not really. She asks if she can keep talking then. He says sure, but he's already yawning the guy. Could this be the real story for putting someone to sleep, folks? The guy's already snoozing before they even start talking, and she says that one day he walked her home. The story went like this. The protagonist's sister was hitting him with a tablet, smacking him on the head because it seemed like he was teasing her. He even starts mentioning that hitting your brother leads to jail, and the scuffle is about to start all over again. But out of nowhere, they come to an agreement and make peace. The protagonist's sister asks if Soa really has to go home now. She'd like to play more but needs to go home. The protagonist's sister then offers to take her home. But Johnson intervenes, saying he won't take her because there's a scary man in that hallway. So they say their goodbyes and Soa heads home alone, saying she'll be fine. Next, we see the two siblings going home peacefully, talking about various things when suddenly they hear a scream. They even call the police about the incident. Among the gossip, the citizens comment that it's a middle-aged man once again doing something wrong and that the child's parents aren't fit to raise a child that way. Fortunately, the neighbors heard and came out to help. Otherwise, something bad could have happened. And let's be honest, it's not the first time this has happened. So his parents do nothing to change this situation, they always make her go home alone. And Johnson, in turn, was just listening to it all while Soa called her mom, asking when she'd come to pick her up. But her mom replies that she has an important meeting and that Soa should go home alone. And once again, the story repeats itself. And this frustrated the girl, maybe explaining her behavior now. Then suddenly, someone calls her while she's crying. It's our boy Johnson with his impressive vehicle, asking her to hop on, saying he won't ask again. I have to say, even back then, the boy already knew how to strike a pose on his bike. He says he's going to pedal hard today, and even if she cried, he wouldn't stop. So it's better for her to be ready. It's her choice if she wants to go or not. And that's how Johnson took little Soa home that day. And today, he's the reason she forgot about that hallway. She doesn't remember if the ride was long or short because her heart was racing. She says this while in the room where Johnson is lying down. She mentions he probably doesn't remember it because it was only for a week. She wanted more memories with him, but ended up moving away. You might not remember her since they were young, but above all, she didn't expect him to fall asleep while she was telling the story. She's disappointed to see him asleep. Still, she feels happy. Suddenly, she puts on the protagonist's jacket and quickly grabs it. Like every maniac, she has to smell the collar. She even says she doesn't mind if he doesn't remember. It's more fun that way. And there he is, passed out on the couch. We need to review a few things here. I admit I've changed my perspective about her quite a bit. Before, she seemed like just a maniac, but now she's a childhood love for the protagonist. In this case, he's hers, right? Of course, she's still a bit of a maniac for sniffing his things. However, it didn't come out of nowhere. It's something that goes back to childhood. I really don't know who the protagonist should end up with anymore. And what about you? Do you prefer the brunette, the blonde, or are you as undecided as I am? We need to see more about the two of them to decide soon. I just don't know if she gave him a peck while he was sleeping because the final scene was a bit strange. Then back home, this time the mission is complete. He only found the shampoo scent on his body strange, wondering if she had sprayed something on him. And on top of it all, she's not responding to his messages. He thinks this might be because he fell asleep and she got mad. But now, what's done is done. At that moment, the mission was updated. The mission wants him to conquer the Gangbuk pub. Right away, he realizes there must be many adults in there. The mission is even guiding him this time like a GPS. So inside the pub, again, the boy asks the DJ to stop playing because Johnson's bag has arrived at the party. Yes, he must be crazy in the middle of so many men. And out of nowhere, he hears someone saying he's a man with great tactics. And the one who said it was the leader who's always reading something, the 20th in the ranking. He says what he just said is a quote from Nietzsche. Then the protagonist says he doesn't care who said it. He'll take the place for himself, and that's that. The other starts saying Johnson's bag can't handle him. He should leave now because he'll forgive Johnson. And then it's revealed that this guy is Yang Chinhak. To me, if there's a hack in the name, the guy's already dangerous. And there's something I just deduced here. See if I'm not a Sherlock Holmes here. This guy's last name, Yang, if I'm not mistaken, is the same as Soa's. Her name is Yang Sova, so maybe he's her father or something like that. Coincidence? Yang like her, and the guy's always reading something she also appreciates. Or am I going crazy? The protagonist is truly startled to see the guy's status. The guy is strong. In terms of comparison, we must admit that. Just look at the side-by-side comparison of their statuses. However, of course, Johnson has some tricks up his sleeve, right? Not everything here is about status. As you may remember, the mission is to take down the guy's bar. But with this crowd, I believe it will be a bit complicated, especially if they all attack him at once. If that happens, Johnson will undoubtedly be in serious trouble. At that moment, Yang, full of confidence, intervenes, saying he's surprised. One of the lackeys even asks, surprised with what? Our boss? He replies he's surprised by everything. The guy's presence there alone and the fact that he's not intimidated by all these people. And the most surprising thing of all is that he was defeated in less than 3 seconds. Yes, they beat up Johnson in the blink of an eye. My God, what did I do in my life? And the leader, addressing him, says he should pay respect to the man who showed up knowing his defeat was certain. However, a fight isn't one with excuses, but with results. He says it's time to see what's behind Johnson's bag. This isn't wise, my friend. He was already reaching out to grab Johnson's bag when suddenly, Johnson grabs him and uses the Strength Boost card. Now you already know. The famous move to break spines is underway. This was Johnson's plan, to bring the bar down. And if only one guy controls it, why fight against the whole crowd? If Johnson defeats this one, the game will be over. And then comes the famous spine-cracking blow. The lackeys are terrified. That's because the individual is lying on the ground behind Johnson. And when Johnson went to check the mission, it wasn't complete. As I mentioned, he was just lying behind Johnson. So the guy already starts talking from behind him, quoting Nietzsche. You must ensure your prey is finished. I think things are looking grim for Johnson, right? Because either the guy's an invertebrate without a spine or he's a megazord, my friend. And look, the second option is the right one. The crazy ones say he's a judo practitioner, meaning throwing him here and there on the floor as if it were nothing doesn't affect him. He's used to being thrown to the ground. The guy's name already suggests he's full of advantages. Who am I to disagree? The guy himself claims he was born this way. But born with what? With this S+ rank and endurance status? Look at this unfair situation. I've never started a game with unfair items or skills or anything like that, much less in my real life. It's quite possible I was born bald, my friend. Dan, I'm a total failure, my brother. And the guy comes up to Johnson, claiming his skill worked well. Like I said, it really seems to have straightened his spine. But Johnson isn't too keen on chatting. Next, he starts throwing jabs at the guy's face, but the guy says that's weak. Yeah, Johnson, now you've got two options. Resist and take a beating or get beaten with dignity. I got the reference. The guy starts grabbing him by the collar, but he prefers to take a beating while resisting, right, folks? All I know is Johnson took a step back, which makes the guy wonder what kind of idiocy this guy is up to. Then he comes at him with a taekwondo spinning kick. But guess what? Not even that works on the guy, folks. The guy is Iron Man. I really can't believe it. And now, yes, he grabs the protagonist by the collar for real and slams him onto the table. The crazies are thrilled to see their boss standing and Johnson on the ground. But Johnson was just sleeping with one eye open. And since the hacker saw this, he's coming to finish the job. Here, the job is done completely. And I tell you, for sure this one would hurt. But of course, as I mentioned before, our protagonist takes the beating with dignity. Then he consumes a recovery seed. At the same time, he remembers that when he recruited the trap-loving guy, he got 5 cards. And no, none of them are for boosting any tools. Forget about it, folks. Not yet. Anyway, let's have some patience, man. But the protagonist decides to use the 5 cards on himself. That's what I want to see. And in the end, he lands a kick in Cheonek's mouth. Yes, folks, no one can have more skills than our protagonist, because he leveled up 4 times in strength and 4 times in speed. Our guy is a big deal now, buddy. But neither Cheonek nor I understand what the heck Johnson's doing in that weird stance. I think it's the classic hold, squeeze, and hang stance. He's just not going to squeeze right in front of these guys, is he? For now, he's just holding it. And check out our protagonist's new status. The guy's starting to get huge. From status A to S, it's just around the corner, folks. And this holding pose he's doing is thanks to this card here. So I did some research and found out that Taekien is an ancient martial art, considered a predecessor to Taekwondo, folks. This one, we have to admit, the author pulled out from the depths. And the protagonist goes all out on Cheonek in every way. And the guy starts getting annoyed, saying he's never seen this martial art before, and neither have I, buddy. Cheonek's plan now is to close up his defense to try and counterattack. But the protagonist closes his fists in a weird way and starts bombarding the guy with punches. And yes, he got into the guy's guard and even crushed his nose. Now it's the protagonist who says that Nietzsche once said, you can't just carelessly let your guard down. Then the brawl kicks off, right, folks? With stomping on the head and everything. And he says again, Nietzsche once said, you must finish well what you started. And he pounds the guy into the ground. Yeah, Nietzsche, take that. And now the tables have turned on him. And now, I guess the mission is complete. And we wrap up with our protagonist talking to the system, saying their place is the best. Pocketing the diamond card. Boost card, is that you? Certainly. Then the guy appears lying on the ground, contemplating life. He starts remembering why he wanted to get strong, and it's because of his little sister. Yes, folks, he's the brother of the blonde Masaka's girl. I would have sworn he was the dad, but this works too. I almost got it right. Seeing her bad situation, he started learning judo. He even formed a gang to get stronger. And he said he has no regrets about it because, instead of bothering good people, he'd go after the bad ones. He would intimidate those who intimidated others who get it. He was that super protective brother who'd burst into her room out of nowhere, asking if she was hurt because he'd heard the other school invaded theirs. He even said he'd go beat the guys up, but Sova told him not to worry that someone had already kicked them out. And she says all happy that the one who did it was Tank Top Johnson. And that's why he didn't want to lose to anyone before meeting Regatta's Johnson. And he's not going to lose again, he says. Little do you know, you just lost to Regatta's Johnson himself. And all that talk from Johnson about my place being a good place or the best place is because he claims he's the only one who can protect Soha. As far as I know, Soha isn't looking for protection. She wants other things with you, Johnson. Open your eyes, my dear. After arriving home, Johnson takes off his mask, which is full of saliva because it must be sticking by now. Gross. And he falls onto the bed. Folks. Johnson himself admits that guy in the top 20 was really strong. So imagine what's below the 20th spot. And after analyzing the new Taekien card, he has quite an unusual thought. Should he now merge all of his boxing cards, folks? Would he gain the skills of the great Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson in person? It's a tough gamble to make. But he says he worked so hard to acquire them that he won't do it now. It's the famous saying, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But changing the subject, it's time to open the card he got after bringing down the guy's pub. The big diamond card, folks. Is there a card to enhance the tool? Is that you? He quickly reveals the card. And this time, the diamond card is a summoning card. The card's name is Festival Card. This card is truly a show, guys. More details will be in the description. In the card description, not in the video, dude, stop looking down there. But this is something we'll see more toward the end of the chapters, right, folks? After all, there always needs to be some drama, and they finally fixed the names of the schools there. The pervert Jang is claiming that a war is about to start. However, the people aren't too interested in paying attention. Johnson himself is asking the guy to start dancing, and Haru mocks him, asking if he's some kind of war monk. However, it's not time for jokes, folks, because Vijun is now blocking Han No-Jetter's forces at the border, and this is the moment to attack the southern school, Douglas School. The Treps enthusiast is devising an attack plan where they won't be able to call for reinforcements. And so the war begins, folks. A shy one without eyebrows will guard their school in case anyone needs support. Diablo Yakuza with the first years will follow Path A, and Johnson with Haru will go by Path B. However, they have no idea who will be defending. And Johnson, suddenly, casually says, "It's strange being alone with you, dear. I'm beginning to suspect that this Johnson really likes a trap. Trap is the music, you dirty-minded bunch." And Haru is excited, eager to fight. Yes, she's addicted to fighting, folks. However, when they open the door, there's a crew inside. The fat guy and the two twins. Haru immediately gets terrified because they're the guys from that time who blocked them under the bridge back when they had the briefcase, remember? On that occasion, there were 3, and now there are only 2. And those 3 together are pretty tough. In fact, if we observe the status of the 3, they were strong for that time because it was only a blink from Haru, and Johnson quickly delivers a strong kick to one of the guys' mouths. The crazies didn't even understand anything. And do you know why Johnson is so strong now, folks? Remember the Diamond Festival card? The description of this card says that all cards will receive an upgrade. Yes, all his cards seem to be in a true festival, because in the end, all the cards really got stronger. Man, that diamond card wasn't for enhancing the tool, but it was quite impressive. Then Johnson tells Haru that he'll handle the 3 by himself. She tries to argue, but he asks her to trust him, which as always makes her say she's not a girl. Sure, this note is true, and this excites the 2 who are left. Ordolfo even says Johnson has a weak physique and that he can take him down. But he's in for a surprise because today Johnson is in serious mode. And check out the kid's status. He's almost unlocking rank S. Suddenly, the guy announces they're being attacked on Path A at the same time. But who would be attacking there? It's someone who makes a horn gesture with the left hand and delivers powerful slaps with the right. El Diablo Yakuza making his entrance for you all. And he's in the best scenario he could wish for, with several first-year students praising him for being strong, which makes him all cocky. However, that's when another enemy appeared, folks. A woman with a katana, tattoos all the way down to her legs. Lee Ji-yeon, 9th in the ranking of South High School. She arrives cursing Yakuza. And take a look at the woman's status. She's intense. Yakuza says he's not sure if she's stronger than him, but he finds her charming. Wow, Yakuza, are you in love now? She stands before Yakuza, and the guys start saying she's a master of kendo, but he tells them not to make him laugh as he sees her as nothing more than a deer holding a twig. All right, Yakuza, that was stylish and all. With your status, my dear, I think that deer could break you with that little twig. I have a feeling the girl is going to give Yakuza a beating, but she's just telling him to shut up and come to fight already. And it's literally coming to fight, if you know what I mean. Until suddenly, she looks to the side because there's a crazy guy saying she can't do this because she has a soft heart. And Yakuza just wants to know who this guy is. And when he turns, the guy is already in front of him. This psycho here is number 8 from South High School's Action. And I think Yakuza is done for, right? And over on Johnson's team, Haru is in shock. There are crazy people lying on the ground all around her. She can barely believe Johnson got this strong. She had even heard he'd gone off to train, but this is too much. A guy tries to throw a punch at Johnson, but he dodges and lands a rib punch that I think would be enough for a barbecue, because that meat is tenderized. Folks, it's literally no chance for this guy. And look, his status wasn't that bad. But Johnson says he can see all of his moves. Plus, Johnson's own status is looking great, almost reaching S. Hold up, is Johnson using Sharingan now to see the guy's moves? This is getting a bit much, I think. And to finish him off, Johnson advances using the Dempsey roll, attacking with everything, no chance for the guy. At least for that one because Ordolfo got him from behind. And that's when the system created a revenge mission. The system wants Johnson to get revenge on the guy, and in return, he'll get a gold card. Man, pure humility. Boost card, is that you? The guy thought he'd crush the protagonist. Haru was already running to help him, but he tells her everything's okay. And you can just see the glow in the protagonist. You all know what that means, right, folks? It means he's getting hard. No, wait. He's getting resilient. Can someone erase that, please? The guy, even with decent status, is already sweating against the protagonist. Or maybe it's because he's a little chubby. I'm not sure. He even starts remembering how easy it was to defeat the protagonist before and wondering how it's possible that the protagonist now has strength similar to his own. At this moment, Gordolfo must have felt that chill in his stomach because the protagonist had already lifted him up. Strength similar to his. Here, we've got at least the double. Check out the protagonist's status. With the card activated, he's already burst into rank S, making things insane. Way too impressive, folks. And now it's showtime, isn't it? The protagonist grabs the guy and slams him into the ground, probably creating an earthquake in Korea. It's true, folks. I was Korea. And the guy, before blacking out, starts thinking he's felt this power before. It's the same as that northern monster. This means Johnson is almost there, folks. Of course, he's using the card, but soon he won't need it anymore. So we're very close to the monster. And Haru, I think she was completely confused. Johnson just defeated the three who previously couldn't be beaten even by their whole group. That's how Johnson earned a gold card. The man's insane. Hold Johnson down. And the funniest part is when he asks Haru if something's wrong, honey, if she was worried about him and all that. He says they need to go now, but Haru is frozen there because she realizes that Johnson is extremely strong. Maybe what she witnessed will really come true. He really will unite all the schools, or at least that's what we hope. Could little Haru be starting to take an interest in the protagonist now, folks? I don't know anything. This trap is dangerous. But back to the subject, it seems we have a problem here, guys. Haru asks what it is, and it seems that Yakuza isn't answering the call. We lost Yakuza. I already warned you this would be a problem. Sometime later on Path A, we see No Eyebrows meeting Johnson, and he wants to know what happened. But No Eyebrows says that, unfortunately, Yakuza lost this fight, folks. And not just him, all the first years were defeated. It seems they were hit by a piece of metal or something like that. So right. Johnson even asked if it was a tattooed girl, but it wasn't her. No Eyebrows says it was probably number 8 of the school, Juhakshin, because he's known for being cruel. According to what No Eyebrows saw, it seems Yakuza got hit more than necessary. That must have hurt him a lot. What do you mean, man? We need to catch this guy and beat him up, folks. Let's gather and beat this maniac to a pulp. It's not possible, man. Poor Yakuza. Immediately, memories come to Johnson's mind from the time Gordolfo used to beat him up at school for everything. And whenever he was about to get hit, Yakuza was there trying to help him. Of course, Yakuza got hit too, but at least he tried. And it's the thought that counts. Not always. Sometimes, getting beat up isn't that great either. But he did all this and they weren't even friends yet. It seems that's when they met and became friends. The protagonist calls No Eyebrows and asks him to take care of the kids because he needs to handle a mission. I'm predicting this will be trouble. Meanwhile, at the Southern School, Douglas School, the girl says he didn't have to do all that. He just needed to scare them. But Juhakshin says that if they hadn't done this, they would keep coming. Then Douglas agrees, saying it was necessary. Necessary, yes, completely unnecessary, that's for sure. You'll see what will be necessary soon, until suddenly someone comes in saying they're having problems again with Johnson's school. It seems numbers 13 and 15 have already fallen along the way. Douglas immediately asks if it was Guva Jun who did it or if, at least, he was with them. But it's not quite like that. It seems the one who caused all this mess was just Johnson of the Regatta alone. He single-handedly brought down 3 points of the Southern School and is now coming to where they are. No one can stop the guy. They don't know what happened, but someone really managed to provoke Johnson. Run for the hills. Johnson is enraged. That's what we need. The guy is crazy. I'm just worried he'll enter the madman's lair and won't be able to get out afterward. He should have at least brought Hajun with him. The damage would be greater. But even so, I'm already eager to see the mess this will cause. He needs to at least get in there and beat up the psychopath who did that to Yakuza. And the one who's desperate about this is Douglas himself. The brunette says she'll handle it, but someone in the back says she doesn't need to go. He'll handle the problem himself. And you already know it's this idiot here who beat up Yakuza, right, folks? The school's rank 8. He's the one we want, right? Johnson is after this maniac. And already under the bridge where Yakuza was defeated, Little Wart is furious because Johnson went to the battlefield alone. And that wasn't part of the plans. He even asked why No Eyebrows didn't do anything to stop him, but he replies that there was no way because it was the first time No Eyebrows had seen this. Johnson, for the first time, was truly furious. So that's why he's beating up everyone who appears. And at these moments, he gets a few flashbacks, some from the embarrassing school days. As always, Gordolfo back then had a field day with the bullying. And at this point in the story, Yakuza was already part of the group that was targeted by the bullying. It all started when he tried to give the tablet to clear Johnson's name, if you remember. From then on, it was all downhill, right, guys? Johnson, as always, was already in shock until Yakuza suggested they try running like maniacs to escape. And even though Johnson was getting messed up every day at the hands of these crazies, he still went to school because of Yakuza, not because of the teachers or his parents. In short, before the system appeared, he was very grateful to Yakuza. He owes his survival to him. To Johnson, he's not just a friend. He's his savior, because if it weren't for him, he would have given up on school a long time ago. And that's why Johnson is there with fire in his eyes, beating everyone to find out where Juhakshin is, the guy who beat up Yakuza. He wants this maniac. Until suddenly, he hears someone saying they know where Juhakshin is. And as you may remember from the scene, it's him in person, right, folks? He takes advantage of the fact that Johnson doesn't know who he is and sneaks in a punch using brass knuckles right in Johnson's face. Only after hitting the protagonist does he start saying that he's Haction. This guy is seriously sneaky. Will you really be ranked 8th in South High School if you play fair? I don't think so. Also, remember how Yakuza got hit multiple times with something metal on the head? It was probably those brass knuckles. Now it all makes sense. And one thing we have to agree on, this guy's got quite impressive status too. And out of nowhere, he starts mocking the protagonist, saying he shouldn't be looking for someone without even knowing his face. Plus, the protagonist went down with just one punch. He even asks if there's something wrong with his resistance since one hit was enough to knock him down. Man, the protagonist made it all the way there, taking down everyone along the way. He's probably exhausted. But then the guy gets closer and says he knows why Johnson came after him. It was because of that Yakuza kid, right? He starts saying that Yakuza is a pig for making him look like a fool while being on Johnson, saying that's why he hit Yakuza so much. I don't want to say anything, but if he's going to fight back, now would be a good time to start. Johnson, you're taking a beating. The guy stomps on his head, saying Yakuza was begging for his life, calling himself a pig and making pig noises. This guy is going too far. Then he grabs Johnson by the hair and says it's his turn now. But Johnson tells him to stop lying because Yakuza would never do that. He's a man who never complains, screams, or cries over things like this. So it's obvious that's a lie. It's just something you'd like to see, isn't it? And Johnson's words instantly irritate the guy, and he punches Johnson in the nose. But this is where the tables turned, folks. The guy is shocked because the protagonist just took the punch with his nose, telling him he messed with the wrong person. Remember the revenge mission he had against the big guy? By completing that mission, he won none other than a gold card, and this time the card is called Berserker. It basically makes a person feel no pain for 2 minutes. The guy's wondering, what the heck is this? I just punched the guy's nose and he didn't go down. And of course, it's because of the Berserker mode that's already activated. In short, the suicide mode is now on. So he goes all out, the guy's coming, but Johnson stops him with 2 fingers in his eyes, because if you're going to play dirty, you know how to. And before starting the fun, Johnson even warns him that from now on, he's going to take punches non-stop for 2 minutes. The guy was still holding his eyes when Johnson came in and landed a solid blow to his stomach, and there were still 116 seconds left. He landed a chop to the back of his neck from above, and there were still 115 seconds left. At that point, I think the guy already felt his soul leaving his body. Johnson even slapped him, and there were still 114 seconds to go. He starts running at the guy, and all you can see is his foot on the guy's face. At that moment, I thought he's already humiliated him. Now he's probably going to preach like Pastor Naruto. But no, he had both feet on the guy's face, flying kick style. And yes, there are still 112 seconds left. He grabs the guy by the collar, warning him they still have plenty of time to play minus 110 seconds left, not even halfway through this. And then for us, time went by fast, didn't it, folks? We blinked a few times and it was all over. And that's when Johnson's Berserker mode ended. The protagonist finishes by telling him not to touch Yakuza because otherwise you're done for. He beat the guy to a pulp. For us, it passed quickly, but the guy took 2 full minutes of punches straight to the face. And Johnson passed out right on top of the guy because it's the reverse effect of the card. Using this Berserker mode causes him to pass out just like that. But it's worth it, right, folks? You can do some serious damage with that thing. The problem is that the first one to arrive on the scene and see Johnson knocked out was the 7th in the ranking at the Southern School. Now the situation just got messy.